Chapter 563. Jiannan carefully walked towards the white sand tower. From afar, he saw 5 people gathered at the bottom of the tower. One of them was his brother, Glu. The other 4 were a priest, a knight, a thief, and an archer. He quickly walked up and introduced them one by one. Broken Arrow, Hongchen Yixiao, Non-Smiler, Silvermoon. Jiannan had seen the names Broken Water Arrow and Red Dust Smile in the mail he had received. As for the latter 2 names, he had heard of them a long time ago, especially Silvermoon, who was a business partner that he had never met before. Jiannan couldn't help but look at Silvermoon, causing him to panic a little. He immediately sent a message to Jiannan. Don't mention such matters. Jiannan did not even bother to respond to this message. They were professional robbers and would never do something like revealing information about the buyer behind the scenes, even if it was Silvermoon. However, this scumbag wanted to measure the heart of a gentleman with his own mean measure. Jiannan had a bad impression of him. Jiannan? It's an honor to meet you. Yi Xiaowu took the initiative to greet him. This surprised Jiannan. Of the 4 people on the other side, Non-Smiler and Silvermoon could be considered famous. He had seen Broken Arrow's skills before, but the first person to greet him was this unremarkable priest. This detail undoubtedly showed that this priest was their leader. This was something Jiannan didn't expect. If you received the mail we sent you, I believe you know why we are here. Yi Xiaowu said. Jiannan nodded. Then what do you think? Yi Xiaowu asked. 20,000 gold coins. Jiannan said. What? Yi Xiaowu was startled. It's not that easy to deal with Qianli. Jiannan said. You mean, you also have to pay to deal with Qianli? Yi Xiaowu said. Jiannan nodded. Silvermoon wanted to say something. She opened her mouth, but in the end she held it back. Then what is the concept of 20,000 gold coins? Yi Xiaowu asked. Jiannan was familiar with doing business and knew what Yi Xiaowu meant by concept. He immediately explained, 20,000 gold coins per level. We'll talk about it below level 40. All the drops are yours. The price is really high, Yi Xiaowu said. Since everyone has interacted with Qianli before, of course you know better than anyone how abnormal he is. Jiannan said. That's right. That's why I'm looking for trouble with him. Yi Xiaowu nodded. I'm just afraid that before we can find trouble with him, he will instead become your trouble. Jiannan said with deep emotion. This was how they provoked this big trouble. He's already a problem, so we have to get rid of him, Yi Xiaowu said. As long as we have money, we are not afraid of trouble. Jiannan smiled. I can pay you, but the condition is that all of you listen to my commands. Yi Xiaowu said. Sure, but I need to know all the details of the plan. We don't want to be cannon fodder, Jiannan said. No problem. Yi Xiaowu nodded. Deal. Jiannan extended his hand towards him. Don't worry. The amount of money is too big. I don't have it right now. I need to raise it. Yi Xiaowu's hand didn't move. Anytime. Jiannan withdrew his hand. Then see you later? Yi Xiaowu said. See you later. Jiannan nodded. He gave Glu a look and the 2 left first. It's finally done, Yi Xiaowu said to Broken Water Arrow. Broken Water Arrow nodded. Silvermoon and Non-Smiler looked at each other. 20,000 gold for 1 level. The 2 firmly believed that they had just witnessed the biggest deal since the opening of the parallel world. This guy really dares to ask for it. Non-Smiler muttered to Silvermoon. Silvermoon nodded. He had interacted with Jiannan before, so he didn't need to ask about the concept, like Yi Xiaowu did. He knew that 20,000 meant 20,000 for 1 level. When Jiannan said this number, Silvermoon was certain that he didn't want to do business at all. He purposely made up a number to make people back off. Think about it, a magic staff that dropped from vast expanse only cost 3,000 gold. The market price of a magic staff was about 2,000 gold. This meant that vast expanse's level was bought for only 1,000 gold. Moreover, it was unknown how many levels were bought with 1,000 gold. Equipment dropped from killing people depended on luck. If you were lucky, it would drop once. Then 1,000 gold was equivalent to 1 level of vast expanse. If you were unlucky, it would only drop after 10 kills. Then 1,000 gold was equivalent to buying 10 levels of vast expanse. In comparison, Gu Fei was asking for 20,000 gold for a mere level. If this wasn't asking for a sky-high price, then what was? Jian Nanyu's asking for an exorbitant price was already awesome enough. But what was even more awesome was that this cleric actually dared to feed. This caused Silvermoon to be confused for a moment. Was this big brother an expert or a rookie? Did he have any common sense? He seemed quite happy that he had made such an idiotic deal. 20,000 gold. Wouldn't Jian Nanyu take 10,000 gold as a deposit? Was this kid going to disappear after taking 10,000 gold? Thinking about this, Silvermoon sent a message to Jian Nanyu to find out. You're going to be rich this time. Where did that guy come from? He's so rich. Jian Nanyu asked Silvermoon. Of course, Silvermoon didn't answer and continued. Haha, how was it? Did you get yourself into a trap? You didn't think he would actually agree, right? If he didn't agree, where would I go to earn money? Jian Nanyu said. Are you serious? Silvermoon asked. What do you think? Jian Nanyu asked. About that. How much would it be if Qianli's drunken equipment dropped? Silvermoon asked. Sorry, I don't accept the business of dropping equipment. Jian Nanyu said. One level would cost 20,000. Even if he accepted the business, he definitely wouldn't be able to pay the sky-high price. Silvermoon just wanted to change the topic and quickly said, about that, if Qianli's sword drops, help me pick it up and I'll pay you 10,000. Silvermoon calculated that if they really started to deal with Qianli's drunken, he and Hongchen Yixiao would be support and wouldn't charge at the front. Water-breaking arrow was a ranged class and wouldn't get close. As for Unsmiler, he would definitely fish in troubled waters and take advantage of the situation. There was also Apple Vinegar, but that kid was known to fight solo, so he might not show up. If that was the case, when they killed Qianli's drunken, the people around him would definitely be Jian Nanyu's people. If he dropped equipment, it would obviously fall into their hands. Although Jian Nanyu had solemnly said that he did not want any of the equipment, who knew what would happen when the time came? Silvermoon decided to strike first to gain the upper hand. They would definitely sell the equipment they obtained from robbing others at a high price. They would rarely keep the equipment for themselves. However, Jian Nanyu's reply was, equipment? We won't pick up equipment. Damn it, he's still pretending. Silvermoon cursed in his heart and continued. Then help me pick it up and I'll give you 10,000. Silvermoon was putting in a lot of money. He heard that Gu Fei's sword was one of the top 3 godly weapons and had a Dark Knight skill. Silvermoon felt that it was worth it to spend 10,000. At most, he would sell the king's sword and have the money. The king's sword's value was mainly in the team. Silvermoon was notorious now and knew that he might not be able to join any team anymore. Holding the king's sword might make him a target to be hunted down. If it was Qianli's super awesome godly sword, he would become a hero. That would be super cool. Silvermoon even had this beautiful dream, but the reply he received was, I said I won't pick it up. Stop these useless things. What? Too little? Then 15,000. Silvermoon was determined to get it. However, he didn't even get a reply this time. He sent another message and got a reply. The other party doesn't talk to strangers. Fuck. Silvermoon roared. The deal was still in the hands of Jian Nanyu. He had already paid 2,000 for the deposit. This was all Silvermoon had. If he didn't get the staff back, he wouldn't be able to get money from Hongchen Yixiao. Now that Jian Nanyu had deleted him, he was going to disappear. Fuck. Silvermoon's expression turned ferocious. No Smiler felt that it was weird but didn't dare to ask. Silvermoon quickly moved to Yi Xiaowu's side and said, Do you think that Jian Nanyu is reliable? Yi Xiaowu looked back at Silvermoon and said, Why? I've never heard of a deal with 20,000 gold coins. This guy will definitely take the deposit. He won't just take it and run, right? Silvermoon said. How do you know the deposit is 10,000? Yi Xiaowu was curious. Silvermoon was startled and didn't hide it. I've dealt with him before. His deposit is always half. Yi Xiaowu looked at Water-breaking Arrow and Water-breaking Arrow said, Really? But as far as we know, his deposit is always about 20% to 30%. No, he takes half from me every time, Silvermoon said with certainty. After saying this, he was also startled. When he looked at Yi Xiaowu and water-breaking arrow again, he didn't even smile. He looked at Yi Xiaowu as if he was a tragic person. He really looks at you differently, Yi Xiaowu said. Fuck. Silvermoon was depressed. He took less than a third of the deposit from others, but he took half from him. Fuck. Silvermoon, this bastard. He's really not a good thing. Jiannan simply kicked Silvermoon out of his friend list and sighed. What's wrong? Glue asked. When Jiannan said this, Glue immediately agreed. He's really not a good thing. I've already deleted him from my friend list. After this deal is over, I won't deal with him anymore. Who knows when this bitch will plot against us? Jiannan said. You've deleted him? His deal is still pending. Won't he go crazy? Glue said. Yes. It's a pity that I can't see his flustered and exasperated face, Jiannan said. Aren't you being too impulsive? This guy is capable of anything. Glue said. I'm afraid of anyone but him. This kind of guy is also afraid. There's no point in being a human. Just thinking about him makes me angry, Jiannan said. It's better to be careful, Glue said. Don't worry. What can he do now? Stir up trouble in front of that Hongchen Yixiao? What a joke. Do you think that Hongchen Yixiao and the others are idiots? Do you think they don't know what kind of trash Silvermoon is? They just want to make use of his perverted skill. It's not his turn to mess up our deal, Jiannan said. Then what about his deal? Do you still do it? Glue asked. Yes. It's just against him. It's not against money. Jiannan said. Then delete him. Glue said. It's not like I can't contact him. Let him be depressed, Jiannan said. Also, it seems to me that this kid is very afraid of mentioning this deal in front of Red Dust Smile and the others. It's very likely that he stirred up something. Next time, I'll definitely expose him, Southern Swordsman said. We might as well go back and make his king's sword drop. Glue said. Hey, that's a good idea. We're always working for others. Next time we'll be self-sufficient. Jiannan said. Oh right. Jiannan suddenly thought of something. How did you meet them? Didn't I get drunk with Qianli? In the end, these three guys were also staring at Qianli when he got drunk. In the end they noticed me. Glue was very ashamed. 3? Yes. At that time, that water-breaking arrow hadn't arrived yet. After being discovered by them, I was about to tell you guys, but in the end, Qianli suddenly disappeared when he got drunk. Glue said. I told them about this first. Then that Hongchen Yixiao said he'd call someone to help us deal with it. How did Qianli disappear when he got drunk? Teleport? That Hongchen Yixiao said something like the wind-chasing emblem. It's an equipment obtained from a wanted mission. After completing the wanted mission, it can be used to teleport directly to the wanted mission office. Glue said. No wonder. Jiannan recalled. At that time, the place where they fought was near the wanted mission office. So the other party had specially chosen such a place. That was really dangerous. Jiannan wiped his sweat. At that time, if it wasn't for Glue and water-breaking arrow appearing in time, even if the others could escape, he would still be dead. What do we do now? Glue asked. Let's rest first. Just now we accidentally killed the Slender Waist Dance. How unlucky. Jiannan said gloomily. Glue understood this kind of thinking. They were in a business that offended people, but at the same time, they were very afraid of offending people. For example, now that they had become enemies with Qianli Drunk, and in the end, they took on a business deal with people that Qianli Drunk knew. As soon as Drunk Qianli received the news, he immediately came to help. Similarly, now that they lost the Slender Waist Dance, they naturally offended this strong person. But this time, they didn't cover their faces. In the future, there would be a lingering problem that they couldn't get rid of. Achoo achoo. In the tavern, the grieving Slender Waist Dance suddenly sneezed twice. Sitting around the table, Gu Fei and the others looked at the gleaming dagger that Slender Waist Dance stabbed into the table. They all shrunk their necks and didn't make a sound. I'll definitely cut him into 1,000 pieces, Slender Waist Dance shouted after sneezing. I'll help you, Gu Fei comforted her. Get your gang of scoundrels here. I want to buy people to kill him. Slender Waist Dance continued to shout. By people? Then I'll introduce you to an expert, Gu Fei hurriedly said. Everyone looked at Gu Fei, thinking that he was going to shamelessly recommend himself. 100 years of experience, a professional, Gu Fei said. Slender Waist Dance was startled. She also thought that Gu Fei was going to recommend her. She didn't think that he would really recommend someone. I was just saying it casually. I want to kill him with my own hands. I'll fight anyone who tries to steal him from me, Slender Waist Dance said. Chapter 564. Are you going to buy him or not? Gu Fei scratched his head and asked. Slender Waist Dance squinted at him. Why are you so enthusiastic? What's your relationship with him? Are you trying to get some kickbacks? Who's getting kickbacks? Gu Fei was indignant. This comrade by Jingluan's family is quite poor. He can only use his kung fu to support a few people in the game. I'm saying that we should help him if we can. What kickbacks? Really? Slender Waist Dance was stunned by his words. Gu Fei nodded with a serious expression. On the side, Boundless Mang was confused. How can he afford to play games when he's so poor? The game equipment in the parallel world was expensive. If one was as poor as Gu Fei described, they shouldn't be able to afford to play. Isn't this a gamble? He can't find work in real life, Gu Fei said. Really? So you're the same? Slender Waist Dance asked Gu Fei. She knew that Gu Fei and Bai Jingluan were the same kind of people. My situation is better, Gu Fei said. Then why? Slender Waist Dance kept asking. I have a lot of relatives. Gu Fei wiped his sweat. If he really wanted to analyze why the Gu family was rich and the Gu family wasn't, it obviously couldn't be explained in a few words. He had to go back to the long river of history and start from the family rules of the two families. He had to trace back some changes and opportunities in between. It was very complicated. Gu Fei himself didn't understand it all, so he could only come up with a simple excuse. Oh, relying on charity. Slender Waist Dance obviously misunderstood a lot of relatives. I guess. Gu Fei thought about it and was too lazy to explain. Then asked Bai Jingluan to come over. He sounds quite pitiful. Slender Waist Dance was overflowing with sympathy. Okay. Gu Fei quickly sent a message to Bai Jingluan. He thought that the poor guy would be overjoyed, but he didn't expect to receive a very arrogant reply. What? There's work again? I've been really busy recently. Let's see if I can find time to go to your place. Where are you? Whitestone City, Gu Fei answered honestly. Whitestone City. That was too far. How much time would it take to go there and back? How much? Let me take a look at the price-performance ratio first. Gu Fei was completely choked. They hadn't seen each other for a few days, but from the way this kid talked, he seemed to be living a good life. Just when he didn't know how to reply, Slim Waist Dancer saw Gu Fei's changing expression and asked, How is it? Have you called him yet? He's been pretty busy lately. His business in the game seems to be doing pretty well. On the other hand, Gu Fei was calm and did not feel unhappy because he had been snubbed. After all, he had introduced jobs to Encyclopedic Jinglin in the hope that his fellow kung fu practitioner would not be too down. At that moment, he felt gratified when he saw Encyclopedic Jinglin's thriving manner. So are you coming or not? Slim Waist Dancer asked. It doesn't matter whether I come or not. Even if you don't come, you still have me, right? Gu Fei laughed. Are you sick? Slim Waist Dancer despised him. Gu Fei smiled and no longer explained. Just when he was dealing with this matter as if there was no follow-up, Encyclopedic Jinglin suddenly sent a message to Gu Fei. Haha, I don't seem to have anything to do these few days. I'll make a trip there. Whitestone City, right? Yes. Gu Fei wiped the sweat off his forehead. Could it be that this brat had always wanted to do this business? Did he deliberately say that to raise his value? After not seeing him for a few days, he had learned to be treacherous and become a businessman. I shouldn't be able to arrive today. I'll be there tomorrow, Encyclopedic Jinglin said. Tomorrow is also Xuanwu? Gu Fei said. There was still a considerable distance between Sunset City and Whitestone City. Encyclopedic Jinglin didn't play for long every day. There's still time. I'm currently at the pier on the shore of Waterside City. This isn't far from Forest Shade City. Isn't Whitestone City next to Forest Shade City? Encyclopedic Jinglin replied. All right then, see you tomorrow, Gu Fei said. After sending the message, he said to Slim Waist Dancer, he'll be here tomorrow. Ooh. Slim Waist Dancer was startled. Encyclopedic Jinglin. Slim Waist Dancer clearly thought that this matter had passed. She didn't expect it to come again in just a few seconds. She said in a daze, isn't he busy? He's not coming? He suddenly said he's coming. Gu Fei said helplessly, won't you guys break your brains from practicing martial arts? Slim Waist Dancer asked. Gu Fei was speechless. There were no more words that night. Gu Fei still logged off on time. Although there was still danger in the vast wilderness, no one dared to be careless this time. Eternal Life Among Flowers and a large group of Lan Yi's brothers rented the area outside of the city to train. They weren't afraid of Jian Nanyu making a move again. However, the styles of these two groups were completely different. They didn't see eye to eye with each other. People born in Moonlit Night City had the temperament of immediately fighting each other if they didn't see eye to eye with each other. As a result, after a night of training, internal strife killed 5 people. In the end, the two groups of people died in vain. The two groups continued to train together. Such a strange way of getting along was something that Lan Yi and the other old players had never experienced after playing online games for so long. They were all secretly amazed. Slim Waist Dancer also mingled with them for a while. Halfway through, she slipped away by herself. She wandered around the leveling area, trying to find Jian Nanyu. Unfortunately, she didn't succeed. In fact, Jian Nanyu and the others had seen Slim Waist Dancer that night. However, because of the profession they were in, they were very vigilant. Usually, when they formed a party to train, a large part of Glue's attention was to pay attention to whether there were people with evil intentions approaching them. Before Slim Waist Dancer saw them, she was already discovered by Glue. If it was Silvermoon or Non-Smiler leading the team, this kind of thing was very likely to happen. However, Southern Azure Sword and the others were a professional and disciplined team. If Slender Waist Dance was accompanied by Boundless Mang, they might give it a try. However, if it was just Slender Waist Dance alone, they would choose to avoid it without hesitation. For them, if it wasn't necessary, killing Slim Waist Dancer was simply a waste of time and meaningless thing. The next day, Gu Fei logged on. He first asked Slim Waist Dancer and the others who were online. After everyone reported that they were safe, he went to find Encyclopedic Classics. Encyclopedic Classics had also just logged on. He had just set off from Shady Forest City to Whitestone City. By the time he reached Gu Fei, he would probably be offline again. On the other hand, the 5 members of Child Elite Group had already floated to Whitestone City. After Gu Fei fought with Jian Nanyu and the others last night, he also told the 5 of them that Jian Nanyu was active again. The 5 of them were worried about playing guessing games with Yi Xiaowu and the others in Shady Forest City, so they immediately set off for Whitestone City. They spent the second half of the night in Whitestone City. In the tavern in Whitestone City, there were many tables full of people. Not to mention the nameless cameos of Lan Yi's subordinates and Eternal Life in Flowers, there were already tables full of famous people. Gu Fei was speechless. Comrades, there are only 7 opponents. With such a big show, I won't be able to see them for the rest of my life. After hearing about Gu Fei's arrangement last night, the Han family young master looked at the tavern full of people who didn't even have seats. He said disdainfully, "You're still trying to lure the snake out of its hole in this situation? You're too outdated. Since the other side only has 7 people, it's clear that they want us to bully them with numbers. We shouldn't wait for them to show up now, but we should take the initiative to drag them out." Yes, we should have done this earlier. Lonnie slammed the table. He had a large group of brothers, but he had to do it alone yesterday. He had long felt that something was wrong, but now that he thought about it, wasn't it the same? They had the advantage in numbers, so why should they show weakness and lure the other side out? What if we scare them away like this? Gu Fei said. If we scare them away, we'll be safe in the vast wilderness, and our goal will be achieved. Brother, you said. That's right. Everyone in the room nodded. Gu Fei was depressed. Clearly, this was a difference in ideology. Everyone's thinking was normal. Using force to deter the other side, and eliminating the other side's criminal intent in the form of preventive measures. However, Gu Fei's thinking was to lure the other side into committing a crime, and then directly eliminate the other side with force. This was why it was said that heroes use force to violate the law. This was indeed very discordant to Gu Fei's ideology. Lani was clearly a man of action. Once he felt that this idea was reliable, he immediately began to assign people, who was in a group, which area to walk around, and so on. Very quickly, half of the arrangements were made, but there was a very discordant sound. A player raised his hand and weakly said, "May I ask who it is?" Lani was startled, and a bunch of famous people looked at each other in dismay. It was clear that although there were many people in this room, the nameless extras didn't know Jian Nan and the others. They couldn't just put up a sign and say, "Jian Nan, report to me," right? From this, it could be seen that Jian Nan and the others usually kept a low profile and had great foresight. Just like right now, they were about to launch a human flesh search, but most people only heard of their names and didn't know who they were, so they didn't know where to start. Damn. Lan Yi was very depressed. Apart from the few of us, who else can recognize that group of people? Brother Yu asked. In the end, apart from the 6 people from the child elite group, there were also Mang Mang, Lan Yi, Fireball, Thin Waist Dance, and Tsubasa Sakuratsuka. There were a total of 11 people. What if we split into 11 groups? Brother Yu asked the Han family young master for his opinion. Too few. The Han family young master had a very good understanding of the map. Everyone had a headache. This also showed why talent was the most expensive. At this moment, those who could recognize Jian Nan and the others were talents. The others weren't. They were definitely lacking in talent. Do any of you know how to draw? Draw out their faces. One of Lan Yi's subordinates suggested. Gu Fei was the first to look out the window. The word draw sounded very foreign to him. The 5 people from the child elite group also followed in Gu Fei's footsteps. This job was too technical. Lan Yi and Tsubasa Sakuratsuka didn't say anything. Fireball said in a daze, "If it's a girl, maybe I can do it." Their gazes finally fell on the 2 girls. Everyone felt that since there was no one else, maybe the girls could make do. I don't know how to draw," Mang Mang said hurriedly. "What are you looking at?" "I don't know how to draw either," Thin Waist Dance, who was being stared at by everyone, shouted. "Or one of you can clearly describe it, and I'll draw it." The guy who had just suggested volunteered. Obviously, he had the skill to think of this idea. Describe. Gu Fei looked out the window again. Just now he wanted a good picture, and now he wanted a good writing skill. The scenery outside today was really good. Chapter 565. Other than Gu Fei, who was standing by the window and looking at the scenery, the other 10 people were describing the appearance of Jian Nanyo's group of 7. Gu Fei heard one description after another jump into his ears, but he couldn't put together a single image in his mind. However, the player who was drawing was already moving very quickly. From time to time he would stop and ask a few questions. He exuded a sense of professionalism. Half an hour later, this person announced that he had succeeded. There were many people behind him watching, and they were all dumbfounded. Lonnie shot forward like an arrow and grabbed that guy's drawing paper to look at. "Fuck you. What is this? Brother Calabash?" Lonnie didn't even show the paper to the others. He crushed it into a ball and threw it at that person. That person was very depressed. "What? I don't look like it?" "Look like your head." Pretending to be an artist, scram to the side. Lonnie scolded. "Fuck, how can it not look like it?" That person was very persistent. He picked up the ball of paper and opened it, showing it to Sword Demon and the others. Those people were also very curious about what the drawing looked like, so they quickly stretched their necks to see. After seeing it, they were very impressed with this brother's courage. This was no longer a question of whether he looked like it or not. It was a question of whether or not he knew how to draw. With this level of skill, he volunteered to do this job. His courage was really commendable. "Fuck, don't embarrass yourself." As his brother, Lonnie felt ashamed for him. He rushed up like a hungry tiger, snatched the paper, and tore it into pieces. He looked like he couldn't wait to swallow it. How is it? It doesn't work, right? Gu Fei, who was looking out the window, was gloating. Most people didn't recognize Jian Nanyu, so they naturally couldn't bully him with numbers. Thus he still had to use his old method of luring the snake out of its hole. In the end, the Han family young master quickly destroyed his dream. Even if this doesn't work, you can't use that method again. Is Jian Nanyu an idiot? He knows it's a trap, but he still jumped into it? You don't say. That's really the case. Yesterday, our intentions were clear enough. Yet he still dared to make a move. Don't look down on Jian Nanyu, he's got guts. Other than me, I really don't know what else he's afraid of. Gu Fei said. After all, there were many people in the room who didn't know Gu Fei. When they heard what he said, they all stared at him, thinking that this person was really shameless, bragging so much. However, Sword Demon and the others knew that this was the truth. Slim Waist Dance and the others had experienced yesterday's battle, and knew that this was not a lie. When Gu Fei was there, they had been looking around for almost 2 hours. When Gu Fei turned around and left for a few minutes, these guys immediately made their move. The original trap was just for show. Both sides knew what the other was thinking. At the end of the day, it was just a game of hide and seek between Jian Nan's group and Gu Fei. Yesterday was yesterday, now is now. If they knew yesterday that you could use the wind-chasing emblem to directly teleport back to that area, do you think they would still make a move? Han family young master said. So today we can make some adjustments. This time, we won't use the wind-chasing emblem. We'll use a teleportation scroll. I'll go far away, and you guys can choose the coordinates to lure them out. As soon as they appear, I'll immediately teleport back. Gu Fei said. Same medicine in the same bottle. We're still playing teleportation. With what happened yesterday, would Jian Nan not be on guard? Everyone knows about teleportation scrolls, so he'll definitely think of it. Han family young master said. Then he'll have to make a move. Gu Fei said. Of course he'll make a move, but since he's so afraid of you, then he'll make a move when you're completely gone. If you use a teleportation scroll, can you directly teleport from your bed to the central plaza? Han family young master said. This time Gu Fei didn't say anything. His gaming time was really a shortcoming. Moreover, Boundless Mang and the others obviously wouldn't be like him, playing for 3 hours a day. So from now on, if you want to deal with Jian Nan, then you'll have to take the initiative to find him. If you want him to take the initiative, then you'll have to be offline. Why don't you wash up and sleep first? Han family young master said. Why do you make it sound so contradictory? Gu Fei was depressed. Then what do you think we should do? Lonnie was also impatient. According to Han family young master's words, they couldn't be drawn out passively. If they were to take the initiative, they wouldn't be able to because they didn't have enough people. How could this matter end? Actually, there's a very simple way to solve this once and for all. I just don't know if you're willing to do it. Han family young master suddenly said to Boundless Mang. What way? Boundless Mang asked. Throw away the staff. Han family young master said. Fuck. Everyone looked at him in disdain. Playing the game relied on equipment and skills. Throwing away the equipment for this kind of thing was equivalent to deleting the account. Amongst the disdain, Boundless Mang seemed to have understood something. She looked at Han family young master and said, You mean? Correct. Not throw it onto the streets, but throw it to a certain person. Han family young master said. The tavern instantly became silent. It was a very crude method, but it was definitely effective. But at the same time, it poked at the Achilles heel of the game, the problem of trust. Everyone in the tavern didn't say anything. Even though most of them didn't know what kind of staff it was, to be able to get people to fork out money to buy it for looting, it was definitely something rarely seen in the game. Right now, a bunch of people were gathered in this room, all for the sake of protecting this piece of equipment. If Boundless Mang was asked to give it to someone else, would she agree? A portion of them stared straight at Boundless Mang, while another portion stared straight at Gu Fei. The certain person that Han family young master was talking about was obviously Gu Fei. However, this kind of thing was too sensitive. If Boundless Mang refused, it would mean that they didn't trust each other, and it would be awkward between the two sides. In order to avoid this kind of awkwardness, it couldn't be better for Gu Fei's side to refuse, especially since Boundless Mang was already hesitating. Boundless Mang's hesitation was unavoidable. After all, she and Gu Fei weren't very familiar with each other. However, when everyone was waiting for Gu Fei to speak, Gu Fei slapped the table and exclaimed, "This is a great idea." Everyone laughed. Those with darker hearts all felt that Gu Fei had the ambition of a wolf. Those who weren't so dark also felt that this guy really didn't know how to conduct himself. In the end, when Boundless Mang saw Gu Fei's appearance, she suddenly smiled and nodded without the slightest hesitation. This is a good idea. She had already taken out the staff, preparing to hand it to Gu Fei. Gu Fei's skills were unfathomable, but his personality was still quite simple. Boundless Mang hesitated for a moment, thinking about this person's various past events. The matter of whether or not to return the equipment actually didn't depend on the relationship between the two, but rather on the other's character. Silver Moon was close enough to her, but what was the result? Gu Fei and she were strangers, and even enemies, but he had helped her several times in times of danger. This kind of person, whether or not they were friends, was trustworthy. Boundless Mang had thought of this point, and was ready to hand the staff over to Gu Fei without any hesitation. Wait. Han family young master suddenly spoke again. What now? Gu Fei asked. What's wrong with giving it now? This handover ceremony has to be done for Jian Nanyu to see. Han family young master said. There's no need. Boundless Mang said indifferently. The staff isn't on me, so it's not bad to let them work for nothing. How can that be? Gu Fei didn't agree. I have to let him see it, or else he won't come find me. Just give it to me. I'm still waiting to find him for revenge. Slender Waist Dance suddenly jumped out. Go go go, what does this have to do with you? Gu Fei waved his hand. Give it to me, Mang. Slender Waist Dance ignored Gu Fei, and went to negotiate with Boundless Mang. This time Boundless Mang was in an even more difficult position than before. Both of them wanted it, but who should she give it to? What are you fighting for? What's the point of giving it now? If I don't let Jian Nanyu see it with his own eyes, am I supposed to run over and tell him that the staff has been given to someone else? Han family young master said. You don't have to run over, I have his friend. Brother Yu interrupted. You're really humorous. Han family young master expressionlessly glanced at Brother Yu. But how can we let him see it? If he sees it, we might as well just go up and chop him up. Gu Fei said. That's easy, go to the auction house and hang it up for a day. Then, with so many people's mouths, we can just spread the word in the city and he'll know soon enough. Han family young master said. The auction house will only show the auction price, not the buyer. Brother Yu said. How could such a small matter trouble a professional like Jian Nanyu? Think about the auction house's transaction process. Han family young master said. Consign it, bid and pick it up at the time. Brother Yu said. That's right, the auction time is clearly written there, which means that everyone knows when they can come to pick it up. In order to find out who the buyer of the staff is, Jian Nanyu will definitely keep an eye on the NPC when it's time to pick up the staff. Han family young master said. Oh, what you said makes sense. Brother Yu nodded. This way, if Jian Nanyu sees that the staff is in my hands and still wants it, he can only find me in the future. Gu Fei nodded. Who said it's you? It's in my hands. Slender Waist Dance said. It's me. Gu Fei insisted. Slender Waist Dance laughed. What a pity. I can't lose to you no matter what. Gu Fei was stunned for a moment before coming back to his senses. Tears streamed down his face. The place to obtain the staff was the auction house, a place that only recognized money. Although the money would definitely be returned in the end, the rules of the auction house was that the highest bidder would win. If Slender Waist Dance really wanted the staff, who would dare fight against her in a place like the auction house? Seeing that Slender Waist Dance was determined to get the staff, Gu Fei really didn't know what to do. In the end, Han family young master sighed deeply. Say, is it important who gets the staff? Of course. The two said in unison. Anyone can get it, but you two can't. Han family young master shook his head. What do you mean? The two were confused. Comrades, since Jian Nanyu will definitely come to the auction house to see the buyer, why don't we take this chance to get rid of him? Or do you insist on walking past him with your staff, beaming with joy, and then wait for him to find you again? The young master of the Han clan said. Ha! The two were stunned. This is just a plan to use the trading panel to lure Jian Nanyu out. It has nothing to do with you two. Always thinking of yourself as the main character, this is an illness that needs to be cured, Han family young master said. Chapter 566. The tavern instantly quieted down again. The players with quick reflexes and good memories had already realized that when the young master of the Han family said, "Give the staff to a certain someone," this certain someone was really a certain someone. It was just an empty reference, not an actual reference. In the end, everyone thought that the Han family young master's idea was to give the staff to Gu Fei, who Jian Nanyu was afraid of for safekeeping. In the end, Gu Fei also thought that was what Jian Nanyu meant. At this time, the Han family young master's words were clear. As expected, the staff could be given to anyone but Gu Fei and Slender Waist Dance, because they knew Jian Nanyu and Boundless Mang. Seeing that they were going to the exchange hall to buy Boundless Mang's staff, how could Jian Nanyu not be suspicious? So it was better to do this with unfamiliar faces. Before, the people who knew Jian Nanyu were talents. In the blink of an eye, the people they knew were useless, while the unfamiliar faces became talents. That was why it was said that everyone was born with talent. No one spoke for a moment, and they were all thinking about the feasibility of this plan. In the end, the owner of the staff, Boundless Mang, spoke first. "We can try." The Han family young master nodded. After that, find someone you can trust, and everyone pool a large sum of money to give to him. He'll be responsible for buying the staff back. Boundless Mang nodded. It was easy to find someone who could be trusted. Many of Lan Yi's people were companions who had been with her in Moonlit Night City. Although everyone had split up, their relationship hadn't faded. Picking a cleric to do this was the most suitable choice. There's no rush. Let's go sell the staff first. Then the others can go to places like taverns to spread the news. News of top-quality equipment always spreads very quickly, said the Han family young master. Yes, yes. Many people nodded and prepared to do their work. Lonnie was extremely depressed. He thought that this grandson really didn't treat him as an outsider. He didn't hold back when commanding his brothers. What was even more infuriating was that his brothers didn't have a stance at all. He had never seen them so obedient before. Then I'll go and sell the staff now. He stood up in a daze. She was afraid that she would be attacked by Jian Nanyu if she acted alone. So she went to the auction house surrounded by a group of people. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Even when he was in the limelight in Moonlit Night City, he didn't bring such a big group of people with him. In the auction house, Boundless Mang consigned her ideal magic staff for sale. The price was set at 1,800 gold, which was 200 gold less than the market price that Brother Yu and the other experienced players had estimated at 2,000 gold. It was said to reflect a kind of eagerness to sell. However, the problem was that if he was in a hurry to sell it, he should set a fixed price. For example, he could directly set a price of 1,800 gold. That would be even better. However, he obviously didn't dare to do this, as he was afraid that someone would really buy it. No matter how high you set it, you would still be afraid. Because the world was so big, there were a lot of idiots. As a result, everyone saw him as someone who was anxious to make a move, but was also unwilling to do so. Done. After finishing her work, Boundless Mang turned around and said to the group of people behind her, 24 hours. Han family young master asked. Yes, it's 7:37 now. Everyone will meet at 6:30 tomorrow to make some necessary arrangements. Han family young master announced. Yes, yes, yes. Everyone nodded. Now hurry up and spread the news. Don't be too deliberate. Han family young master waved his hand. Instantly, half of the people dispersed. Lonnie was once again depressed. In his heart, He was thinking that after this matter was over, he would give these brats a good lesson in ideology and make them deeply aware of who their boss was. This group of impatient brothers was very efficient. The news of a high-quality priest staff being consigned for sale in the auction house slowly spread in Whitestone City. When it came to spreading gossip, it was always good to have a start. After that, there would be professional gossip lovers to spread the news everywhere. After that, a few priest players who received the news all ran to the auction house to take a look. Of course, the ideal staff did not have an undeserved reputation. Just its ordinary attributes were stronger than the staffs used by most priests. Moreover, the skill Mana Sacrifice was simply a skill that could recover mana. Currently, priests could only recover HP. With this staff, not only could it recover HP, it could also recover mana. How cool was that? One had to know that having no mana or HP at a critical moment was equally fatal. Although the price of 1800 gold made many normal players stop, those who knew the industry knew that this price was already considered low. It was definitely a bargain to be able to buy it. However, seeing that there were so many priests gathered in the auction house, everyone could guess why they had come. As a result, those who had no money in their pockets looked at the staff and drooled. Those who had money in their pockets saw that there were many competitors, and were in no hurry to make a move. This staff did not have a maximum price, so it was completely meaningless to bid now. Wait until the last 10 minutes of the 24 hours, or even the last minute, when the competition would be the fiercest. After those who knew the time, they had already turned around and left. Instead of wasting time here, it was better to use this time to raise more money. Looking at the situation, this staff might not even be able to be bought for 3,000 gold. No, it might even be 4,000, 5,000. The priest who had left the auction house saw other priests surging out from various streets, and continued to rush to the auction house, and became more and more pessimistic. This was the true value of an exquisite equipment. The so-called market price was an evaluation made by everyone based on the comparison of the attributes. However, the greatest characteristic of a truly exquisite equipment was its scarcity. Thus, it would lead to a bidding war. In the end, it would be impossible to predict how much the equipment would be sold for. The same ideal staff might be sold for 3,000 gold this time, or 5,000 gold the next time. This was because the quantity was too small, so small that it was simply not enough to form a fixed supply and demand market. Every time it appeared, there would be a new market, so how could there be such a thing as a market price? The market price that the players spoke of was actually a synonym. It had different meanings at different times. For ordinary equipment, the market price could be understood as the highest price. For truly exquisite equipment, the market price could be understood as the lowest price. At this moment, a large number of priests were heading to the auction house to look at equipment. After looking at it, some of them forgot to go home, while others seized the time to start raising money. The resulting chain reaction was that the players who were used to leveling in random parties discovered that there were surprisingly few priests tonight. At the main city gate, this was the most common area for random parties. Groups of players stared at each other, all because there were no priests in their party, so they couldn't set out to level. What's going on? When these leveling armies asked around, it naturally became a new wave of news spreading. The auction house has consigned an exquisite priest staff for sale. It's called the Ideal Staff, and it has regeneration skills. This message quickly spread throughout Whitestone City. The Ideal Staff? Yi Xiaowu and Broken Arrow heard this news at the same time as they were in the tavern. What? Broken Arrow still didn't know that Yi Xiaowu had been instigated by Silver Moon to buy this staff. This staff has a skill called Mana Sacrifice. It's currently one of the few mana recovery skills. Yi Xiaowu said. Sounds very useful. Broken Arrow said. Very useful. Yi Xiaowu said. Let's go take a look? Let's go. The two of them went to the auction house together. At this time, it had already been 3 hours since Gu Fei had logged off. It was the dead of night, but there were still many priests in the auction house. There were tens of thousands of priests in a main city. People constantly received the news, and people constantly rushed over. The auction house had never been so lively before in Whitestone City. There were many auction tables in the auction house, but at this moment, None of them were empty. In front of each table, there was a group of priests. Yi Xiaowu and Broken Arrow looked at each other, then chose a table with fewer people and squeezed in. On the auction board, the ideal staff was impressively listed at the top. Although the majority of players who wanted it calmly waited until the last moment to bid tomorrow, there were also some who casually opened their bids. At this moment, the price had already jumped to 2,217 gold, 58 silver, 40 copper. There were rules for raising the price of items in the auction house. The lowest bid was 10 copper, and there was no upper limit. However, when someone raised the price by more than 10 copper, the lower limit would be refreshed. Yi Xiaowu looked at the current limit. It had already been raised to 1 gold. And in the blink of an eye, the price jumped again, jumping to 2,218 gold, 58 silver, 40 copper. This looks like it won't be easy to get. Broken Arrow looked at the surging priests around him, wiping his sweat. Yes, looking at this situation, buying it isn't just a matter of money. You need a bit of luck. Yi Xiaowu said. Haha, that's not necessarily true. You can directly send in 10,000 gold right now. I don't think anyone will raise another 10,000. Broken Arrow laughed. There's no need. Yi Xiaowu also laughed. I've already bought one for 4,000 gold. Oh, where? Broken Arrow asked. The Silver Moon gang contacted him. Yi Xiaowu said. That brat, is he reliable? Broken Arrow said. What? Is he going to use a fake to trick me? Yi Xiaowu laughed. At most he, as the middleman, will get a few hundred gold. But look, even if he gets a little sweet, 4,000 gold is still considered cheap. If this continues to rise, there shouldn't be any suspense about it exceeding 4,000 gold, right? There's no suspense. Broken Arrow agreed, but immediately afterwards, he saw the name of the magic staff seller. He immediately said, Boundless Mang Mang. This is the wife of the previous Silver Moon. Oh. Yi Xiaowu also immediately noticed and muttered. Could it be that this is the magic staff he contacted for me? It can't be. I heard that the two of them had a very bad relationship. That girl would sell anyone, but not him. Broken Arrow said. I'll ask him. Yi Xiaowu said. How many of these magic staffs have appeared in game? Broken Arrow asked from the side. How would I know so clearly? Yi Xiaowu said as he sent a message to Silver Moon. The ideal magic staff you contacted, is it the one in the Boundless Mang Mang Mang? At this time, Silver Moon was alone leveling in the wilderness with his face covered. Every minute he stayed in White Stone City made him nervous, not to mention going to places with many people like the tavern. So when he had nothing to do, he hurriedly ran to the wilderness, specifically looking for the kind of uninhabited leveling area that was rarely visited by people. He painstakingly leveled alone. He didn't know anything about the magic staff that had already spread in the city. Suddenly receiving Yi Xiaowu's message, Silver Moon was shocked. His first thought was that Yi Xiaowu had completely sold him out. He had already said everything that he promised not to say. But this was just a thought. With just one sentence, Silver Moon wouldn't be so shocked that he would confess without being pressed. He immediately replied. Ah. One word, one question mark, but it was extremely mysterious. It did not directly admit or deny what Yi Xiaowu had asked. Every word revealed a sense of doubt, hinting for Yi Xiaowu to continue. An ideal magic staff has appeared in the exchange hall. It's being sold by Boundless Mang. Yi Xiaowu immediately explained the whole story. He speculated that Silver Moon had instigated him to buy the staff, so that she could get a few $100s as a commission. He did not expect that Silver Moon had actually hired a group of robbers to attack her closest friend. Ah, it's this one. How could this woman go back on her word? She said she would sell it to me. Silver Moon pretended to be indignant, and once again splashed dirty water on Boundless Mang. At this moment, he had another evil idea. In his eyes, Yi Xiaowu was undoubtedly an extremely rich person. After knowing that this was the staff, he would probably buy it from the auction house. As for Jian Nanyu, although he had deleted Silver Moon as a friend, fortunately, Glue and the four of them had added each other as friends yesterday. Silver Moon later contacted Glue and learned that although Jian Nanyu had deleted him, He would still complete the task he had accepted out of professionalism. Otherwise, he would pay the full amount of money according to the rules. Silvermoon knew the rules of Jiannan Yu and the others. As long as they received the deposit, it meant that they had accepted the task. At this time, if the buyer wanted to cancel the task, the deposit would not be refunded. If they canceled the task, they would return double the deposit. Although the staff had been sold, it was not difficult to find the buyer. Of course, Jiannan Yu and the others had to check the buyer if they continued the task. Then they found out that the buyer was Hongqian Yixiao. And then, if he canceled the task, I would have earned 2,000 gold for nothing. If he continued the task, he would even kill Yi Xiaowu. It was none of my business. Silvermoon had this idea, so he directly admitted that it was the same staff. So it's like this. Yi Xiaowu responded and didn't say anything else. Silvermoon felt that there was no need to say any more encouraging words. He was afraid that Jiannan Yu and the others still didn't know that the staff had been auctioned, so he hurriedly contacted Glue. Boundless Mang, the staff has been consigned for sale at the auction house. Do you know? Silvermoon said. There's such a thing? I don't know. Glue said. Hurry up and pay attention. Otherwise, it wouldn't be good if you don't know who bought it. Silvermoon said. Fuck. Just as this message was sent, Silvermoon suddenly reacted and slapped himself. It was a good thing that Jiannan Yu and the others didn't know the whereabouts of the staff. If they couldn't find it and couldn't complete the task, wouldn't they still have to pay? Didn't he achieve his goal? Why did he have to remind them with such a cheap mouth? Fuck. Silvermoon slapped herself twice more. Chapter 567. While Silvermoon was regretting her actions, Jiannan Yu frowned when he heard the news from Glue. Ever since they started out, Jiannan Yu and the others had only imagined this kind of situation. They had never experienced it before because they were worried that it would happen, so they would carefully hide their true intentions. But this time, because the opponent had Gu Fei, who knew Jiannan Yu and the others very well, their intentions were completely exposed. This Mang had obviously guessed that the only thing worth dropping from her was the staff. What should they do when this happened? Jiannan Yu and the others had seriously discussed it before. The conclusion was that it was too troublesome, so they had to nip it in the bud. Besides, most people might not have the determination to give up on the high-quality equipment, so they weren't really worried about it. They didn't expect Mang to be so bold, giving up on the high-quality equipment just like that. What should we do? Everyone looked at Jiannan Yu. Obviously, Jiannan Yu's group was much more cohesive than Lan Yi's group. Whenever there was a problem, everyone would look to their boss. I've already received the deposit. Even though it's from that trash Silvermoon, I don't want to compensate her just because we can't complete the quest. Jiannan Yu said. Okay. Everyone was very supportive. When Jiannan Yu came back and told everyone about it, they were all very angry. She had repeatedly doubted the professionalism of their group. This was too hurtful. Let's go to the auction house first. Horeni suggested. Wait. Jiannan Yu suddenly froze. Everyone looked at him again. Jiannan Yu nodded. The 7 of them walked back from the leveling area. They passed by a few areas and found that there were fewer people leveling today than usual. Just as they were puzzled, they finally returned to the city gate of Whitestone City. It was already midnight, but the city gate was unexpectedly lively. It was obvious that something unusual had happened. However, when the 7 of them paid attention, they found that it was just random parties gathering people to level up. This situation was extremely rare. Because everyone was a random party, they didn't know each other. Not enough people? Then 2 parties would form 1 party. 3 parties would form 2 parties. It would usually be solved quickly. There was no need to wait for a long time. However, at this moment, there were so many parties waiting. Jiannan Yu and the others paid more attention and finally saw that all the teams were priests. Bro, what's going on? Glue went up to a player and asked. Damn. I heard that there's an exquisite priest staff for sale in the exchange hall. And all the priests have gone there. If you say you want to buy, then bid. If you don't want to buy, then just watch. What's the point of everyone wasting their time there? This person was full of complaints. Is that so? How long have you been waiting here? Glue asked. Almost half an hour. Damn it, there are still several queues in front of us. After listening to his words, Glue paid more attention and found that the teams were still arranged in order. Perhaps the arrival of the priest had caused a commotion, so now everyone was lining up harmoniously. When a priest came, a line would form, and when a priest came, a line would form. You want 2 priests? Today this is an unrealistic fantasy. He wanted to go back and report the situation to Jiannan and the others, but he found that they were already in chaos. The players waiting for the priests at the city gate were all anxious. When the 2 great priests appeared, they were immediately surrounded and tried to rope them in. The 2 didn't even say anything, but the others had already started arguing. Damn, what are you fighting for? We agreed to do it in order, someone shouted. Damn, 1 for each priest. Are you trying to rope them all in? There's still 1 more, and it's not your turn. It's our team's turn. Our team. Our team. It was fine if the priests came 1 by 1, as everyone had some discipline. Now that 2 suddenly appeared, it immediately caused a commotion. What hadn't Dao Xiangmu and Lin Sunsen seen before? This was the first time they had experienced something like this. Being treated like a boss by so many people felt great, and they didn't understand. In the end, it was Jiannan who spoke up. Everyone calm down, we're a fixed team. Big brother, your team only has 6 people. 2 priests, that's too extravagant. Let us have 1. Someone saw that Jiannan seemed to be the boss and immediately came over to curry favor. Are you joking? Big brother will hire 1 of your priests, 50 gold an hour. Jiannan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. We're busy now. What can be more important than leveling up? These people didn't give up. They were already dumbfounded from waiting for the priests. Some even went to instigate Dao Xiangmu and Lin Sunsen. Brothers, I see that your team's level isn't high. Some of you aren't even level 40. What's the point of following you? Come with us. It's a 10-man team, all level 41. The 2 of them didn't speak, and continued to enjoy the treatment of an emperor. They glanced at Blackwater and Flaming Shirt. The 2 noobs who weren't even level 40. You 2 bastards, say something. Jiannan was furious when he saw the 2 of them acting so inappropriately at such a crucial moment. He shouted at the 2 of them in the team channel. The 2 of them didn't dare to continue and hurriedly explained to the people surrounding them. There's really something. Since the main character had spoken, the surrounding players tried to persuade them, but they could only leave helplessly. Jiannan and the others didn't dare to stay any longer. They all left the area where the priests were treated like treasures. Damn, isn't it just selling an exquisite staff? It actually made all the priests in the city nervous? Flaming Shirt said with lingering fear. Just now, a bunch of people had come up to curry favor with Dao Xiangmu and Lin Sunsen. As a little mage who wasn't even level 40, he wasn't treated as a human at all. Some strength-based professions were too heavy-handed. Flaming Shirt was almost pulled to death by so many hands. The value of exquisite equipment is really immeasurable. Blackwater exclaimed. Even Jiannan nodded. This is just a staff in the boundless wilderness. If it was Qianli's sword with unknown attributes or Silvermoon's trashy king's sword, what would have happened? TSK, we chose this profession because we have such a bright future. Glue said. Yes. The 7 of them shed tears of happiness. They were proud that they had chosen to rob for a living. The auction house is just ahead. The 7 of them finally arrived near the auction house. Previously, when Jiannan and the others were busy getting out of trouble, Glue had inquired about the situation of the staff on consignment, and confirmed that it was undoubtedly the ideal staff. In addition, he had also inquired about the time when the staff would be on consignment, and the situation that there was no fixed price. The priests who came to the auction house obviously wanted to see the attributes and price of the staff. Jiannan and the others didn't care. After arriving near the auction house, the 7 of them paid more attention to the surrounding terrain. This might be a trap. On the way, Jiannan suddenly made this hypothesis. A trap? The 6 of them frowned. No matter how I look at it, I feel that the staff has caused a huge commotion. It's only been about 7 hours and it's already spread like wildfire. Don't you think it's a bit exaggerated? Jiananyu said. This such a high-quality equipment is indeed rarely consigned for sale in the auction house. No one knows what will happen next, Huorunyi said. I know that. But think about it. When such an exquisite piece of equipment appeared in the auction house, everyone who wanted it would try to block the news as much as possible. The fewer people who knew about it, the better. Therefore, the source of the news should only be those who like to gossip. With their strength, how could the whole city know about it within 7 hours? Don't you think it's a bit strange? Jiananyu said. It's not just 7 hours. 7 hours is only the current time. I heard that the priests started to get nervous at around 10 at night, Glue interrupted. That's even more obvious. It's only been 2 hours, yet the news spread so quickly. I think someone is purposely spreading it? Jiananyu said. This isn't hard to understand. For example, the seller. Spreading the news as much as possible to let more people know, Flaming Shirt said. I heard that there's even a post on the forum, Glue said. I know it's possible, but considering the relationship between us and the seller, we have to be careful, Jiananyu said. What do you mean? There are 2 possibilities. Jiananyu raised his finger. First, the whole city knows. There's no reason for us not to know. Meng is using this to send us a message. The staff isn't in her hands, so don't look for her. Everyone nodded. If that's the case, then it's good. What's more troublesome is that there's a trap within a trap. If we take this as a possibility, then we have to find out who will have the staff. Then we have to start monitoring the NPC in the auction house the moment the auction ends. This will give the other party a chance to ambush us. This is the second possibility that we need to worry about, Jiananyu said. Who would have such a deep calculation? I don't know. The scariest part of this scheme is that even if we suspect it's a trap, we have to act according to his wishes. He knows that we aren't willing to take the risk of failing the quest, Jiananyu said. Hey, it's just suspicion. Don't make it sound so serious, Glue said. Jiananyu smiled bitterly. He needs our suspicion. It would be great if we were 100% serious. Then what should we do? Won't it be dangerous for us to go over now? Glue said. We won't go in. Let's observe the surroundings first, Jiananyu decided. At this moment, the 7 of them arrived near the auction house and walked around the surrounding streets and alleys. I didn't find anything strange. They were all experts at ambushing others. Setting up an ambush was also their forte. At this time, after walking around, they only saw clerics running around. There was nothing strange. The center of the city is wide and there are many streets. If they want to set up an ambush here, the most important thing is manpower. I don't think a guild that isn't rank 4 or above can completely lock down this area. There are only so many streets. Can they defend it? Glue came to this conclusion after observing. Chapter 568. It's impossible under normal circumstances, but what if Qianli is drunk? Flaming Shirt asked. Ken and Yoshi glanced at him. He was the one who was most afraid of Qianli getting drunk. Perhaps it was because they were of the same class. Ken and Yoshi did not even dare to raise his head when he walked. Ken and Yoshi patted him on the shoulder and said, Qianli is alone when he gets drunk. He can fight against all 7 of us. Flaming Shirt said. No, I mean we can split up. Ken and Yoshi felt that he should take back his idea. Flaming Shirt was not as afraid of Qianli as he thought. He wanted to fight against Qianli. What he wanted to do was to split up and run. But they have other forces. If we split up, we might not be able to break through, Glue said. That's why we need to sacrifice some people to stall Qianli for a while, Ken and Yoshi said. Blackwater and Flaming Shirt stood up without hesitation. The 2 of them were not LVL 40 yet, so they would not suffer any losses. Jiannanyu's group of 7 was a true team. Every one of them firmly believed in teamwork. A strong team was the principle of true strength. Although the other 5 did not intend to be courteous with the 2 of them, they still expressed their gratitude for their sacrifice. At the same time, they felt sorry for them, but there was no other way. If it was not necessary, Why would they sacrifice themselves so cruelly? The 7 of them were solemn, as if they were holding a memorial service for Blackwater and Horeni in advance. While they were immersed in their roles, Glue suddenly thought of something. His face lit up with joy and he shouted excitedly, "I have an idea." "What idea?" "A brilliant idea," Glue said proudly. That night, the topic of the mage staff persisted in Whitestone City, and as the news spread on the forums, there were even clerics from other cities who traveled thousands of miles to Whitestone City. Just this distance alone was enough to show the determination of these clerics. This had a huge impact on the priests of Baishur City. Originally, they were competing with a city, but in the blink of an eye, they were competing with the entire world. The price of the magic staff began to crazily soar along with this wave of attacks. The bidding price continuously rose. After grinding for an entire night, they returned to the auction house to take a look. The price had already soared to 3,424 gold, 58 silvers, and 40 coppers. The minimum bidding price had already been raised to 50 gold. The price had increased by so much in one night. This was definitely an unprecedented frenzy of buying. It must be known that the real time to raise the price had not yet arrived. These were just some tentative bids. Just like that, the final transaction price had already reached such a number, and the final transaction price was simply unimaginable. Motherfucker, this is what you call a real top-tier equipment. Tsubasa Sakuratsuka exclaimed. As the #1 trap technician in Cloud City, some of the equipment on him was also known as the best equipment for lurkers, but it was nothing compared to this ideal staff. The simplest example was the auction house's trade panel. Search for the ideal magic staff, and there was only one of it. Search for the name of any top-tier equipment, on Tsubasa Sakuratsuka's body, page after page. This shouldn't be called top-tier equipment. It should be called rare equipment, Fireball said. You summed it up very well, Tsubasa Sakuratsuka said. He then looked at the vast expanse of land next to him and noticed that the girl's eyes were a bit blank. He waved his hand in front of her eyes and said, "Hey, you're not really planning on selling it, are you? Selling a rare top-tier equipment and exchanging it for a common set of top-tier equipment on the street would increase your overall strength. Many players who cared about EXP would make this choice. However, this type of rare equipment was a symbol of personality. In the game, it was very easy to be the same, and personality was something that was very difficult to pursue. In this vast and boundless world, there was a symbol of personality in front of them, so they clearly didn't want to give it up. Even though they were shocked by the increase in price, and the thought of selling it flashed through their minds, they immediately dispelled it and shook their heads when they heard Sakurazuka Tsuzuka's question. Looking at this situation, we need to gather more money. In the end, we need to offer a sky-high price that no one dares to touch. Otherwise, if we keep raising it like this, we might not be able to snatch it back, Tsubasa Sakuratsuka said. Can you stop talking? Lonnie suddenly said. Am I wrong? Tsubasa Sakuratsuka was baffled. Lon-E angrily winked at his surroundings. Sakurazuka Tsukuzi also reacted. It was indeed inappropriate to discuss these things in public. Fortunately, the auction stage was occupied by their troops, so no one should have heard what they said just now. Tsubasa Sakuratsuka didn't dare to be careless, and immediately shut his mouth. Let's go. After saying that, everyone nodded and left the auction house. As they discussed this matter in the channel, they went their separate ways and went offline. That night, when Gu Fei logged on, he immediately received a message from 100 Era's Jinglan. I'm here. Okay. Gu Fei responded and asked where he was. It turned out that this guy had just logged on, and wasn't far from the offline area. So Gu Fei went to pick him up and asked for the location of today's gathering. It was the same tavern as yesterday, and he immediately went there with 100 Era's Jinglan. It was 10 minutes past 6. There were still 20 minutes left from the time when the Han family young master informed everyone to meet. However, more than half of the people in the tavern had already arrived. It seemed that everyone was very enthusiastic about this matter. Almost everyone is here. The Han family young master saw Gu Fei and 100 Era's Jinglan enter. Everyone greeted each other. Lonnie hadn't seen 100 Era's Jinglan before, But after someone introduced him, he said that it was an honor to meet him. 100 Eras Jinglan smiled and said, "You're too kind. I haven't seen this brother before. Is he from Baishur City? What's there to take care of?" "Ah, take care of?" Lonnie was confused. "For example, someone who made you unhappy." 100 Eras Jinglan gave an example. Oh. Lonnie came to a realization. At the same time, he remembered that Gu Fei said that he wanted to hire this guy to kill someone. It turned out that he was really a hired thug. Someone who made me unhappy. Lonnie thought and couldn't help but look at Tsubasa Sakuratsuka. "Fuck, why are you looking at me?" Tsubasa Sakuratsuka was also very sharp. "Hey, the two of you don't seem to have a good relationship." 100 Eras Jinglan looked very interested. Everyone looked at him. "Whoever offers a higher price, I can help teach the other party a lesson," 100 Eras Jinglan said. Everyone looked at each other. "Hey, are you serious? Is this how you do business?" Gu Fei said. "What's the problem?" 100 Eras Jinglan asked. "You should have some principles. At least have a first come, first served basis. For example, if Lonnie wants to teach you a lesson first, then go to Bien Yu. You actually used this the highest bidder wins method. Is this proper? In the long run, who will trust you and promote you?" Gu Fei said. "Brother Zui." Tsubasa Sakuratsuka was in tears at the side. He was someone who knew how powerful 100 Eras Jinglan was, so he really didn't like this example. "I know that." 100 Eras Jinglan smiled. "But now both of them are in front of us. You see how they hate each other so openly. The auction is also giving them a fair chance to compete, don't you think?" Now that you put it that way, it makes sense." Gu Fei nodded, then waved his hand at Lan Yi and Tsubasa Sakuratsuka and said, "You guys continue." Lan Yi and Tsubasa Sakuratsuka immediately acted as if they were facing a great enemy. At this time, they didn't know whether it was true or not. They were really afraid that the other party would make a bid, and 100 Eras Jinglan's fist would hit one of them. The two's eyes were fiercely fighting, and their lips were about to move. "I'll buy it." Slim Waist danced suddenly threw a money bag on the table. "Oh, which one?" 100 Eras Jinglan picked up the money bag and opened it while asking. Soon after he saw the approximate number, he immediately said, "This much, I can buy two together." After saying that, he began to roll up his sleeves. Lan Yi and Tsubasa Sakuratsuka were shocked. They didn't know how they offended this Missy. "Not them." Slim Waist Dance quickly said. "It's Jian Nanyu, do you know him?" "Oh. Yes, it's him again." 100 Eras Jinglan said. "Yes, it's him again." Gu Fei nodded. "This time, it's a lot more than the last time." 100 Eras Jinglan glanced at Han Family Young Master. "Last time, he ran around and earned a bottle of wine. And your business is flourishing now, you're famous, and your net worth has also increased. Do a good job, I have high hopes for you," Han Family Young Master said. 100 Eras Jinglan was very happy. After putting away the money bag, he got up and rubbed his palms. "Okay, where's Jian Nanyu?" "I'll lure him out tonight," Gu Fei said. "Very good." 100 Eras Jinglan sat back in his seat, as straight as a javelin. Han Family Young Master then led everyone to the main topic. "Okay, now let's make some preparations." "How?" Lonnie was a bit excited. He hadn't participated in a large-scale PK for a long time. "Preparations?" Han Family Young Master was confused, then nodded. After clearing the table, he said, "If it's convenient, each person can pay 200 gold coins. That way, we won't have to keep track of the numbers." Lonnie was startled. "This is what you're talking about. What else is there? There's still an hour before the auction ends. What's more important than gathering the money?" Han Family Young Master asked. Lonnie was stunned. He turned around like a log. "Everyone gather the money." 200 gold coins. Han Family Young Master shouted again. "Why?" Someone couldn't help but ask. "Didn't I just say it? That way, we won't have to keep track of the numbers." "Why do we have to keep track of the numbers? If you don't want to take the money back, then you don't have to." Han Family Young Master didn't even turn his head. He was too lazy to look at this kind of idiot. Remember those who paid, so that no one can take advantage of the situation. Han family young master said to Lonnie. Fuck. Why didn't you say so earlier? Lonnie was anxious. Many people didn't even come over. They only saw a bag of money fall onto the table. How would they know who paid? Why don't you ask your brothers to all pay? That way, you don't have to keep track of the numbers. Han family young master said. Pay. Lonnie waved his hand. He didn't want to do such a tiring job. What if you don't have 200 gold coins? There were still this kind of voice. Then your boss will hate you. That's because he needs to record your name and money on paper. Han family young master said. Lonnie was indeed depressed. He rolled his eyes and shouted. Those who don't have 200 gold coins, come to me. Chapter 569. The funds were collected very quickly. Gu Fei and the others also took out 200 gold to show their willingness to participate. Not long after, they had collected 34,624 gold. Lonnie held onto the account slip, sweating profusely. After confirming that the number of people and the amount of money were correct, he let out a sigh of relief. There's no problem, right? Young Master Han asked when he saw the relieved expression on his face. Lonnie nodded. Han family young master looked at the time and stood up. It's about time. You're going to complete the transaction? Lonnie was confused. Han family young master's class was suitable, but didn't they say that they couldn't let faces that were familiar with Jian Nanyu appear? No, there's someone else. Han family young master looked at Boundless Mang. Boundless Mang nodded his head in agreement. Everyone else was confused. It seemed like Han family young master and Boundless Mang were plotting something. Then let's go. Gu Fei rubbed his palms together. How do we arrange people at the revival point? Do we leave a team at each revival point for the 6 classes? Lonnie maintained the ruthless style of Moonlit Night City. Killing once was not considered killing. If they didn't block the revival point for half a month, they wouldn't know how strong they were. Whatever. Han family young master said. His nonchalant attitude made it seem like this kind of thing was useless. Lonnie was confused again. It's like this. In the end, it was Boundless Mang who patiently explained to everyone. The auction has to be completed immediately, but we can delay picking up the goods for a week. So I'm planning to store the staff there. Lonnie was startled. Jian Nanyu and the others must know the whereabouts of the staff, so they have to stay there 24/7 for a week? Boundless Mang nodded his head. So vicious. Lonnie sighed in admiration. No wonder his position in the guild was lower than Boundless Mang, even though he was the vice-guild leader. He couldn't just consider the fact that she was the guild leader's wife. Just look at the current plan. Making people waste a week was much more sinister and cruel than blocking the revival point. Does that mean we don't have to fight today? Everyone had been rubbing their palms together the whole night yesterday. They didn't expect such a situation to happen today. There's no need, said the vast Mang Mang. Aren't you going to lure Jian Nanyu out? Encyclopedic Classics did not know the cause and effect, so he did not quite understand what was going on. However, he could tell that there would not be any fights today. I didn't say that, replied the Han family young master. Bai Yanjing looked at Gu Fei, and Gu Fei said solemnly, there's a change of plans. Then, just as the Han family young master was about to say something, someone burst through the door and yelled, bad news. Lonnie turned around and saw that it was one of his brothers. He immediately got angry. Why are you only here now? It's not like I won't return the money. Do you need to hide? No, something has happened, the man shouted. What is it? Asked the others. There are a lot of people at the auction house. The man said. Everyone waited quietly, waiting for him to continue. But after he said that, he was gone. Lonnie was about to scold him, but the Han family young master's expression suddenly changed. Oh no. What is it? The others looked at him. If there are too many people, I'm afraid I won't be able to get the auction stage now, said the Han family young master. Aya. Everyone reacted. They had actually neglected such a cruel and realistic problem. Let's go. Lonnie yelled. A large group of people rushed out of the tavern. The vast Mang Mang was even more anxious. It was obvious that if they couldn't get the auction stage, It would be useless no matter how much money they had. The staff was really going to change owners. Everyone rushed to the auction house. With just one glance, they felt that the situation was hopeless. Every auction stage in the auction house was like a bus during rush hour. It was packed to the point of bursting. Although there seemed to be gaps between the people, it was just the air wall that the system had set up in the safe zone to limit the players' contact with each other. Moreover, although the auction house and trading house didn't have the offline save function, they were even safer than the offline zone. In these two areas, players could not even use their skills. Even the bounty quests in the offline region, which were unrestricted, were sealed here. There was really no way to enter such a crowded place at this moment. This kind of problem suddenly appeared in the game. Even the Han family young master had forgotten about it. After all, this kind of problem wouldn't appear in traditional games. No matter how many people there were, they could just use the shortcut button to block it. How could there be a situation where people couldn't enter a room? Looking at this scene, everyone could only stare at each other helplessly. The auction house was in an uproar. Because they couldn't do anything, everyone used their mouths to their advantage and cursed endlessly. Gu Fei and the others circled the auction stage twice, and discovered that there were many people like them who were unable to come into contact with the auction stage due to this situation. At this moment, other than frowning and cursing, there was nothing they could do. In this super safe zone, even someone as strong as Gu Fei was no different from a level 0 noob. What do we do? Everyone was asking this question. Misty Meng looked at the time. There were only 20 minutes left until the end of the auction. From the looks of it, we might not be able to get the staff back, but we'll definitely be able to sell it for a high price. Tsubasa Sakuratsuka had already started to comfort her. Yeah, I'll buy everyone a drink after I sell it. Misty Meng was smiling, but everyone could see that her smile was forced. This girl was undoubtedly a person who valued relationships. She treated people and items the same. The staff that had been with her for so long was about to change owners. No amount of money could make up for her reluctance to part with it. As for the value of the equipment itself, it was just an increase in her reluctance to part with it. Lonnie couldn't stand it anymore. He took a large bag of gold and went to find someone to discuss with. He wanted to buy a way out. In the end, the people in the outermost circle were also frustrated because they couldn't get in to buy the staff. They only said one word to Lan Yi. Fuck off. Who dared to come and buy the staff? Which one of them was short of money? Lan Yi's method had already been used by someone before. That person had used his money to open a bloody path, but the innermost players who were touching the auction console refused to let him go. This was equivalent to spending a lot of money to buy a good spot in the front row to see who was bidding. Their mood couldn't be any more depressed. Lonnie fumbled around a few times. After hearing about this legend, he didn't dare to use this method again. He came back dejectedly and shook his head at Misty Meng. Misty Meng didn't say anything. She only sighed and turned to Gu Fei and the other experts. Go pick up the goods and see if there are any of Jian Nanyu's people. It was clear that the situation had gone out of control. They could only put on a show and lure Jian Nanyu's people out. Wow, are you kidding me? Such a high-quality magic sword. I'll pay 3,000 gold. Suddenly, there was a roar. Everyone turned around and saw that it was Fireball making a ruckus. On a high platform in front of him, Gu Fei had set up a stall and was calmly inserting his Night Streamer sword into the ground. Fireball's shout attracted the attention of a few people around him. After curling their lips in disdain, they couldn't help but glance at the Night Streak sword in the stall. The properties of the items set up in the stall were automatically made public. Once these people saw it, they couldn't take their eyes off it. In addition, Fireball continued to shout, sell me, and attracted a few more people's gazes. Most of the people who came to the auction house to buy their ideal staff were priests, but there were also other classes. The Night Streak sword's magic damage was shocking, and its physical damage far exceeded the current level of a level 40 equipment. It was extremely tempting to many classes, including the few Night Priests. As soon as they saw it, several mages and warriors immediately surrounded it and shouted, how much? Perhaps they were asked by their friends to buy their ideal staff, but seeing that they couldn't get a chance to bid, Suddenly there was a piece of equipment that suited their class and was far stronger than their ideal staff. How could they not go crazy? Gu Fei immediately became excited and shouted, "I can't squeeze into the auction stage, so I'll auction it here. Whoever wants it, shout louder." 3,000, 3,000. Fireball, who was closest to the stage, continued to shout, 3,000 my ass. Someone looked at Fireball in disdain. Such a high-quality weapon, 3,000 was an insult. "I'll pay 3,100, he shouted. TSK. Everyone thought he was amazing, but they only raised the price by 100 gold. 3,300, 3,400, 3,500 for 1,000. The price was higher and higher. Gu Fei didn't care if there were people like Fireball who were just shouting for fun. When he heard a higher price, he immediately repeated it loudly. In a short while, the price had already surpassed the ideal staff that attracted the attention of priests all over the world. The players who were originally focused on the auction here thought that the noise around them was just a farce. But when they heard that the price had actually surpassed their exquisite equipment, they couldn't help but look back. After all, the night streamer was a combat weapon. The priest players could still remain calm, but the other players couldn't sit still when they saw this. This was especially true for the non-priest players who were fighting fiercely for their ideal staff. Most of them had been asked by their friends or wanted to increase their own chances of getting the staff. At this time, their purses were bulging, and a piece of equipment that was even better than their ideal staff appeared behind them. It was as if 100 claws were scratching at their hearts, making them itch. The price continued to rise higher and higher. It was much more intense than the system auction at the console, and the speed at which the price was rising was also faster. It seemed that someone was already bidding in RMB and inviting the seller to the exchange. This was an opportunity that couldn't be missed. With this thought in mind, many people finally gritted their teeth and abandoned the fight for their ideal staff. They turned around and rushed towards the swarming crowd, waving their hands and hoping that the seller would see them. Their mouths were also shouting out high prices. Some people felt that the seller wouldn't be able to hear them if they were too far away. So they took out a piece of paper and wrote a number on it, then raised it high on their weapons. Good. The brother over there has already bid 9,700. Is there anyone who wants a higher price? As Gu Fei shouted, he looked down and noticed that the priest in charge of buying the ideal staff had already seized the opportunity, and with the help of the crowd, grabbed a spot on the auction stage and gave him a thumbs up. Chapter 570. Gu Fei's goal had been achieved, and he immediately sent out a message. The person who received the message also understood tacitly. She, who had been waiting for a long time, leaped onto the stage where Gu Fei was standing, raised a bag of money and shouted, "I'll pay 20,000. Silence reigned. Ever since the staff was put up for sale yesterday, the auction house had not been quiet. As the auction of the sword neared its end, it was supposed to be the most exciting moment. However, it suddenly became extremely quiet. It was so quiet that everyone could hear their own breathing. 20,000. Someone pinched his thigh. He wanted to know if this was a dream. Everyone's attention quickly shifted from the Dark Knight streamer to the person who bid 20,000. Red Spectre Rogue Female, 20,000 gold. All the characteristics matched. Everyone immediately thought of a legendary name, Slenderwaist Dance. Therefore, the players who wanted to question whether this woman was a troublemaker shut up. The players who had more than 20,000 gold in their pockets and wanted to continue bidding shut up. Some players who wanted to cause trouble and bid recklessly, even though they had no money in their pockets, shut up when they thought of the rumors about this woman's violent nature. Everyone silently watched the woman stand high up on the stage, waving her money pouch and looking down at the players. 20,000 gold. Is there any higher bid? Gu Fei spoke. He was still immersed in his character. Fuck 20,000 gold. And you're still not satisfied? Some people started to coax Gu Fei. Some even threw trash at him. Fortunately, the super safety zone was restricted by the system. The people could only throw the trash, but they could not throw the items in their hands. Is there no higher bid than 20,000? Is there no more? 20,000 going once. Gu Fei shouted. Going twice. Going thrice. Deal. The beauty is yours. Gu Fei led the applause. No one responded. Everyone was extremely jealous. Who would be happy for someone else who had bought an exquisite equipment? Everyone watched as the two of them exchanged the items. This was the only interaction that could take place in the super safety zone. Everyone's heart was bleeding. Apart from the Han family young master and the others who knew that this was just a show, there were others who weren't paying attention to this shocking deal. Yi Xiaowu and Cutting Water Arrow immediately rushed to the auction house after learning that the ideal magic staff was being auctioned yesterday, and it was the one in the vast expanse. For the whole night and day, Yi Xiaowu was the only one who never left the auction console. Is there a need to do this? Broken Water Arrow didn't understand his madness, and he also noticed that Yi Xiaowu only bid intermittently. Most of the time he paid full attention to the changes in the price, and from time to time he recorded something in his notebook. If you don't do your homework, how can you have 100% chance of getting the staff? Yi Xiaowu said. What do you mean? Water-breaking Arrow didn't understand. Look, Yi Xiaowu continued to stare at the auction panel without blinking as she explained to the water-breaking Arrow. Although it shows that the staff will be put up for sale for 24 hours, it doesn't show when it starts, when it ends and how much time is left. According to the information we got, we only know that the staff will be put up for sale around 8 o'clock in the evening. In other words, this auction not only requires enough money, but also enough luck. Only when the bid reaches your hand at the end of the auction will you have the chance to get the staff. Oh, you're trying to calculate the exact auction time of this staff? Water-breaking Arrow asked. How is that possible? What I'm doing now is to grasp the pattern of the staff's price jumping and refreshing. This will ensure that my bid will be higher than all the competitors at the most timely moment. Yi Xiaowu said. There's a pattern? Water-breaking Arrow didn't understand. Under normal circumstances there isn't, but there should be now. Yi Xiaowu said. I don't understand. Water-breaking Arrow said. Let me put it simply. On the surface, the auction panel seems to refresh very quickly, but in fact, there is a fixed interval. The time is 1 second. In other words, within a minute, the price will at most jump 60 times. It can't be more. However, if there are more than 60 prices appearing at the same time in 1 second, the system can't possibly flash all 60 prices in 1 second. It will directly process it behind the scenes, filter out the highest price, and display it on the panel in the next second. However, in this extremely competitive situation, one situation will definitely happen. What situation? More than 2 players will post the exact same price. Yi Xiaowu said. That's right. What will happen if that happens? The system will filter according to the time. The first bidder will get the right to bid, and the other players will get a system notification that they failed to bid. Yi Xiaowu said. I understand. But what's the pattern you want to grasp? It's this. I want to grasp the system's delay in checking the same price. For example, when the auction panel shows 3,000 gold in reality, the system is already calculating the next batch of bids of 3,100 gold. If I can grasp this delay and bid accurately, I can guarantee that my bid will always be in the lead. Yi Xiaowu said. Is that possible? Although you use the word delay, all of this actually happens in 1 second. Water-breaking Arrow said. That's why I'm working hard from now on. Yi Xiaowu said. Is there anything I can help you with? Water-breaking Arrow asked. It's good to have a stopwatch. Yi Xiaowu said. Is there one in the game? No. Then work hard. Water-breaking Arrow said and didn't say anything else. The above conversation was done through private chat. On the surface, the two of them were focused on the auction panel, as if they were one with the surrounding army of buyers. In order to grasp the difference between the 1 second delay, Yi Xiaowu didn't rest for the entire day. Especially when he thought about how the buying would only really start after 7 at night. At that time, the prices would be refreshed and some unexpected situations would be far from what they were now, so he didn't dare to be negligent. In the end, he didn't encounter the awkwardness of Gu Fei and the others not having a place to participate in the auction. When water-breaking arrow came again at night, he had no place like Gu Fei and the others. He could only walk around the auction stage where Yi Xiaowu was. There were too many people in the auction house, so he and Gu Fei didn't notice each other until Gu Fei suddenly jumped onto the stage and shouted at the top of his lungs. Water-breaking arrow suddenly noticed and immediately sent a message to Yi Xiaowu. Qianli Drunk is auctioning his night streamer sword. Yi Xiaowu studied for a day and a night. Just as he expected, after 7 at night, a large number of players swarmed to buy the staff. The situation was much more serious than it was during the day. Yi Xiaowu had been mentally prepared for this. All the auction tables were working at full capacity, and he was well aware of the number of people that could be accommodated. Everything was within his calculations, but he did not dare to relax in the slightest. He was completely focused on bidding against the crowd, and was completely unaware of the things that Gu Fei had revealed behind him. When he gradually felt that it was easy, Yi Xiaowu breathed a sigh of relief and opened the message that had been flashing for a long time. Qianli Drunk is auctioning his night streamer sword. Water-breaking arrow sent this message 5 times. Where? Yi Xiaowu was surprised because it wasn't on the trading panel. Behind you. Water-breaking arrow finally waited for Yi Xiaowu's reply. Yi Xiaowu quickly turned back and saw the scene of slim-waisted Dance jumping onto the stage and bidding 20,000 yuan to buy the night streamer sword. Yi Xiaowu was stunned. He recognized that it was slim-waisted Dance. Didn't she and Qianli Drunk know each other? What was going on? The appearance of slim-waisted Dance was an unforeseen event for Yi Xiaowu. If it weren't for this scene, he would definitely bid for the night streamer sword at all costs. For him, the road to harmony with Gu Fei would be half completed if he accepted this super class-crossing weapon from Gu Fei. However, the appearance of slim-waisted Dance made him realize that there was a chance here. So he remained calm and collected. You don't want to continue the auction? The auction outside had ended, but water-breaking arrow found that Yi Xiaowu was still absent-minded, so he quickly sent a message to remind him. Yi Xiaowu calmed herself down and continued to focus on the auction. In the crowd, Glue and Flaming Coat, who had witnessed this transaction, reported it to Jiannan and the others as important news. The terrifying attributes of the night streamer sword terrified Gu Fei's enemies. It was not hard to imagine that Gu Fei's instant kill damage was supported by this weapon. Now that he was going to sell the sword, it was great news for them. However, good times did not last long. After slim-waisted Dance jumped onto the stage and bought the night streamer sword, Glue and Flaming Coat were greatly disappointed. They sighed in unison. Fuck, what a shameless couple. What's going on? Jiannan and the others who were listening to the broadcast couldn't analyze the actual content of this sentence. Slim-waisted Dance bought his weapon in the end. The two said resentfully. What's going on? What's their purpose? Jiannan frowned. I don't know. Flaming Coat and Glue certainly couldn't guess that the purpose of Gu Fei's auction was to attract attention and help their members snatch the platform. Let's not worry about it for now. You two keep an eye on them. Should I expose them? Horini suddenly had an idea. So what if we expose them? What kind of grudge can we have against them? Don't bother with meaningless things. Just keep an eye on them, Jiannan said. Sigh. Flaming Coat let out a deep sigh as she couldn't find a chance to defeat Gu Fei. Actually, both of you can come today. There are so many people at the auction. If you blend in with the crowd, no one will notice you. The two chatted while keeping an eye on the NPC who sold the item. Fuck. All of a sudden, the auction house was thrown into chaos. Loud curses could be heard everywhere, and the auction for the magic staff had officially ended. The players who did not manage to buy it vented their depression in time, like gamblers who had lost a bet. Of course, they hoped that they could spend their money. How did it go? The water-breaking arrow and Boundless Mang both sent messages to their buyers at the first possible moment. Chapter 571. Water-breaking arrow sent the message, but there was no reply. He already realized that the situation might not be good. The players who finished the auction scattered. Water-breaking arrow sailed against the current and forced his way to the front of the auction stage. He saw Yi Xiaowu petrified like a statue, his eyes still staring at the auction board. Suddenly he turned his head and began to look around. He saw Water-Breaking Arrow next to him and randomly greeted him, then pushed him aside and squeezed out of the crowd. You didn't get it? Water-Breaking Arrow quickly caught up. Yi Xiaowu nodded with a dark face. What happened? Water-Breaking Arrow asked. There won't be a problem with my bid, Yi Xiaowu said with certainty. He had already figured out the pattern and rhythm. Every time the auction board would show the price he offered, and he didn't receive a failed bid notification from the system. This was the best proof. Every single one of his bids was successful, including the last one. Then what happened? Water-Breaking Arrow was puzzled. There is only one possibility. In the last wave of bids, someone raised the bottom line. Raising the bottom line meant that the price was higher than everyone else. In this case, the time was no longer a problem. The system directly chose the highest price to show, and other bids wouldn't be judged as failures, because they were only equivalent to being replaced by a higher price in the auction. Because of this, Yi Xiaowu was sure that his last bid wasn't a failure, but was erased by a higher price. That's really unlucky. Water-Breaking Arrow sighed. This kind of situation didn't happen in the previous bidding, but it happened at the last second. It's hard to believe that this is a coincidence. Yi Xiaowu said. If it's not a coincidence, then what is it? No one knows when the auction will end. Water-Breaking Arrow said. Someone knows. Yi Xiaowu said. Who? The seller. Water-Breaking Arrow suddenly understood. Indeed, the only person who could know when the auction would end was the seller. Maybe after she finished the auction, her friend wanted it, so she told her friend the specific time, and helped her friend successfully by the staff. Water-Breaking Arrow guessed. Accurate to the second? If she didn't have the intention, would she deliberately remember it so clearly when she consigned it? Yi Xiaowu said. If that's the case, what the hell is going on? Water-Breaking Arrow was confused. I don't know. Let's take a look. Yi Xiaowu looked around as she walked. At this moment, the auction house was like a movie theater that had just ended. There were players everywhere. Yi Xiaowu wanted to go to the pickup area to see who had bought the staff, but a crowd had already gathered there. Although their feelings were not as complicated as Yi Xiaowu's, the crowd was very united in their curiosity. The flaming cloak and glue blended in with the crowd. They really liked this situation. Firstly, it would be hard for him to be discovered. Secondly, the player who had come to retrieve the staff would definitely be very conspicuous. If he was lucky, he might even be able to find out more about this person. In the end, layers and layers of people waited anxiously, but no one came to pick up the goods. Occasionally, 2 or 3 people would appear, causing everyone to be excited. However, they were all normal auction players, and the items they were bidding for were not ideal staffs. The seller, on the other hand, appeared out of nowhere and took away her big bag of gold coins in satisfaction. Where is he? Why isn't he showing up? Flaming Cloak mumbled. Everyone knew that the items sold in the auction house could be kept for 7 days. However, for a top-grade staff that was bought through such intense bidding, it was only reasonable that the buyer couldn't wait to take it out and try it out, right? However, the buyer didn't show up today, which made everyone very anxious. After more than 10 minutes, many players lost their patience and left one after another. Seeing that there were fewer and fewer people around them, Glue and Flaming Cloak looked around more and more diligently. Where is Qianli drunk? Is he still there? Flaming Cloak asked as she looked around. I didn't see him. Glue was also looking around. The number of players in the auction house gradually decreased, to the point where everyone could be seen at a glance. The two of them looked around, but in the end, they could not find Gu Fei. Previously, when Gu Fei ended the auction, the two of them had wanted to continue watching his movements. However, at that time, there was a sea of people, and it was as if Gu Fei didn't notice them. It wasn't that easy for them to watch Gu Fei. Don't be careless. Qianli drunk did show up. Maybe someone new is watching us, said Glue. Flaming Cloak nodded and continued to be vigilant. Suddenly, she noticed something and pulled Glue away. Look, 2 people seem to be watching us. Glue looked back and was stunned. He recognized that the 2 people were Yi Xiaowu and Broken Arrow. Flaming Cloak had never seen them before, but he knew that they were the bosses of their next big deal. Not only could he make money, but he could also vent his anger on Thousand Miles Drunk. Horini was very happy with this business. After hearing about the glue, he immediately waved at the two people enthusiastically. Yi Xiaowu and Broken Arrow also recognized Glue, and they walked over. Glue wanted to ask them why they were here, but when he saw Yi Xiaowu paying half of his attention to the NPC who sold the goods, he immediately realized their intention. "Brother, you didn't get the staff?" Glue asked even though he already knew the answer. Yi Xiaowu shook his head. "Many people bought it. It was luck." Glue comforted him. "Maybe it was luck, or maybe the seller bought it," said Yi Xiaowu. "What do you mean?" Both Glue and Flaming Cloak's faces changed. "With my skills, there shouldn't be such a coincidence that someone would offer a higher price than me. Unless the seller knew in advance when the auction would end and took advantage of that second to buy the staff back at a much higher price," Yi Xiaowu said. Skill. Both Glue and Flaming Cloak were distracted. They didn't know that skill was important in auctions in the parallel world. Yi Xiaowu obviously didn't want to explain. He just looked at the NPC and muttered, "The person who bought the staff hasn't shown up yet." "That," Glue said carefully. "What do you think is the possibility that the seller bought the staff?" 99% Yi Xiaowu said after looking at Glue. "That's not 100%. Flaming Cloak said. "Maybe it's a coincidence." After all, luck couldn't be explained by science. Glue and Flaming Cloak didn't dare to ignore this unexpected information, so they quickly contacted Jian Nan. "Nan, we met Hongchen Yixiao, and he said that there's a 99% chance that the staff was bought by the seller." "Oh, what proof does he have?" Jian Nan asked quickly. "He didn't say, but I don't think he's lying," Glue said. "So it's really a trap," Jian Nan said. "But we didn't see Qianli drunk and the others around," Glue said. "Didn't they show up before? This proves that they were just there. This must be a trap. Let's leave," Jian Nan said. "Should we wait and see? Even if it's a trap, we have to figure out who has the staff," Glue said. "Since it's confirmed that it's a trap, the staff will eventually return to Mang Mang's hand. We can continue to pay attention to this woman," Jian Nan said. "That makes sense, but we'd better wait here and see what tricks they have up their sleeves. It's safe here anyway," Glue said. "That's fine," Jian Nan said. In order to make the trap more believable, Glue asked Yi Xiaowu how he was sure that it was the seller who bought the staff. Yi Xiaowu didn't explain in detail like he did to Broken Water Arrow. He only said that there would be a difference between a successful bid and a failed bid when there were many people bidding. He knew the pattern. The bids were always successful, but the last bid before the end of the auction was directly buried by a higher bid. So he was very suspicious of this coincidence. Hearing this, Glue and Flaming Cloak immediately felt that Yi Xiaowu's deduction was very reliable. Before the end of the auction, no one had raised the bottom line, but this happened 1 second before the end of the auction. It was too much of a coincidence, and it was worthy of 99% suspicion. He sold it and bought it himself. What is he doing? Yi Xiaowu said. Glue and Flaming Coat looked at each other and didn't say anything. When Qianli was drunk, he auctioned his sword, but in the end, he also bought it from his own people. What kind of trick is he playing? Broken Water Arrow was also thinking. Glue and Flaming Coat didn't know the answer either. The four of them frowned and thought hard. Glue and Flaming Coat knew half of it. But why did Qianli play such a trick when he was drunk? Why? The two of them thought so hard that their heads hurt. At this time, Gu Fei and the others were no longer in the auction house. When Gu Fei jumped onto the stage and started to attract the attention of most people, Lonnie left the auction house with a large group of people. They weren't supposed to appear in the auction house, but because they suddenly realized that there would be no place to auction, they all ran over in a hurry. At this time, seeing that Gu Fei's method was very likely to work, Lonnie hurriedly called for everyone to leave the auction house, leaving only the clerics to buy the swords. Qianli's method is very likely to work, but he will be exposed. Jian Nanyu and the others may be in the crowd. When they see him appear at this time, they may realize that this is our trap. Brother Yu was very worried. How meddlesome. The young master of the Han family had a dark expression on his face as he spat out unhappily. But if we don't do this, we won't be able to get on the stage. Brother Yu said. So what? Han family young master said. Brother Yu was startled and stopped walking. Han family young master turned back to look at him. Brother Yu said slowly. I was thinking you usually don't let go of any details. How could you be so careless as to ignore the fact that there will be a lot of people in the auction house at this time? Of course I know this kind of thing. You want to make the act real. You really want to use the vast and boundless magic staff as bait to lure Jian Nanyu. Jian Nanyu isn't stupid. This is the only way he will fall for it. Han family young master said. Chapter 572. The plan is going smoothly. At this time, Lonnie swayed in front of the two of them. The one who had bought the staff was his subordinate. Although Boundless Mang had informed him of the exact auction time, it was still not easy to accurately bid for it at the last moment. Furthermore, under such difficult circumstances, they still managed to snatch the auction stage. Lonnie felt that his brother had made a name for himself this time, and his heart was a lot more relieved. Although Lonnie felt a little embarrassed when those guys surrounded Gu Fei and asked to admire his world-shaking sword, but the attributes of a 1,000 miles drunk's dark streamer sword were too abnormal. Even Lonnie himself couldn't help but want to admire them a few more times. Smooth my ass. Han family young master was still in a bad mood. Lonnie had actually run over to praise the plan. Naturally, he had bumped into the horse's foot. What's wrong? Lonnie was puzzled. With that guy causing a ruckus, how could Jian Nanyu fall for it? Han family young master pointed at Gu Fei, who was surrounded by Lan Yi's brothers. At this time, even Fireball, who had been fortunate enough to use the night streamer sword, was surrounded by a small group of people. Lan Yi obviously knew what causing a ruckus meant. He said helplessly, "There's nothing we can do about it." Luckily, Brother Qianli thought of this method to divert the attention of many people. That's how we were able to take advantage of the chaos and snatch the auction stage. Otherwise, all of this would have been for nothing. The Han young master solemnly patted Lan Yi's shoulder. Big brother, let me give you a reminder. Right now, we are still working for nothing. Lan Yi was startled. Wasn't that the case? Fireball had hurriedly bought the staff back, but everyone had already forgotten why the staff had to be put up for sale. From this point of view, not being able to successfully lure Jian Nanyu into the trap meant that everyone had nothing better to do than to put the staff up for sale. Then they managed to buy it back. In the end, they had paid the system a fee and received a heartbeat of memories. That Lonnie really didn't want to admit that his side's attempt to buy back the staff was pointless. He tried to explain in a positive direction. At least we didn't lose the staff. If it was just for this, why would we put it up for sale? Han family young master said. Maybe Jian Nanyu and the others will fall for it. Lonnie said. Han family young master looked up at the sky. If only he was as stupid as you. What did you say? Lonnie was furious. He had a bad impression of the Han family's young master to begin with. It was only because they had a good time working together that he felt a little like, no discord, no concord. But now, it seemed like the good cooperation was just his own wishful thinking. The other side clearly thought that the cooperation was a failure. Jian Nanyu won't fall for it. You guys continue to protect Boundless Mang Mang and her magic staff. The Han clan's young master said word by word. You think we can't protect it? Lonnie was furious. You. Han family young master glanced at Lonnie with disdain. If it wasn't for Qianli, you wouldn't even be able to get back the staff, and you still want to protect it. You were the one who thought of the plan. Why didn't you predict this beforehand? There were so many people that there were no seats at the auction. It was everyone who had overlooked this situation. Not just the young master of the Han family. Lonnie originally had no intention of blaming anyone, but the young master of the Han family's disdain had poked his sore foot. For a moment he couldn't find any powerful counterattack, so he could only take advantage of this situation to make a fuss. Brother Yu realized that the situation wasn't looking good, and was about to try and smooth things over. However, Han family young master said disapprovingly, "How could I have overlooked this? I just wanted to sell Boundless Mang's staff in this situation, and make it look real to Lord Jian Nanyu. It's over." Brother Yu looked up to the sky and let out a long sigh. When he realized the true intention of Han family young master's plan, he had been carefully thinking that he couldn't let anyone else know about it. Who would have thought that Han family young master would say it out so casually? Moreover, it didn't seem like he was forced or impulsive at all. It was completely because Lan Yi happened to mention this matter, so he naturally said the truth. "What did you say?" Lan Yi was deeply stunned this time. It was obvious that the impact of this fact was quite big. The previous disdain could be treated as a quarrel between comrades, but this was enough to turn friends into enemies. Unfortunately, it failed. Han family young master spread his hands and continued to look disapproving. Brother Yu was on the verge of crying. This guy's arrogant narcissism was too annoying. Why did I have to appear in this place at this moment? Where's Sword Demon? Where's Qianli? Where's Yutian? Where's Unscathed in Battle? Why isn't this group of grandsons here? Why am I the only one here? The two at the center of the incident didn't react, but Brother Yu, who was watching from the side, was already in a mess. "What did you say just now? Say it again." Lan Yi said word by word. Han family young master turned around and walked away. Just as Brother Yu knew, Han family young master didn't say this out of anger or impulsiveness. It was just that this guy didn't care about other people's feelings and carried on with the conversation. At this time, Lan Yi's "say it again" was definitely seen as a meaningless request, so he ignored it and walked away. "Stop right there." Lan Yi chased after him angrily. Brother Yu hurriedly interrupted. That. Brother Yu wanted to say, "Don't misunderstand. These are all words said out of anger, to help Han family young master." In the end, he thought that Han family young master definitely wouldn't agree with his good intentions. He would most likely stop and turn around to look at him in disdain and say, "Words said out of anger? Are you an idiot?" Thinking up to this point, Brother Yu actually didn't say anything after saying that twice. When Lan Yi saw this scene, he knew that everything was true. He shouted, "Stop," and raised his hand, chanting again. A bolt of lightning streaked down from the sky and struck in front of the Han clan's young master. Lan Yi was startled. It looked like the Han family's young master had listened to his stop and immediately stopped moving. As a result, he didn't get hit by the lightning. However, Lan Yi knew that his stop wasn't a warning at all. It was just like a casual shout in a PvP match. The Han family's young master had obviously predicted his attack. He didn't advance but instead stopped. Thus, Lan Yi's calculated spell missed. "Say it clearly before you leave." Han family young master's dodging caused Lan Yi to calm down. Lan Yi felt that his personality had really changed. If it was back in Moonlit Night City, he wouldn't have said something like "say it clearly." He wouldn't have said "stop" twice either. He would have just used a lightning spell and gotten straight to the point. After casting the spell and shouting, everyone finally realized what was going on here, and they all gathered around in a hubbub. "What's wrong?" Boundless Mang didn't think that it was a big deal, because he knew that Han family young master wasn't a very likable guy. With the personalities of his brothers in Moonlit Night City, it was reasonable for them to make a move on him since they couldn't communicate with him. That guy already predicted that there would be a lot of people in the auction house at the last moment. If he didn't prepare in advance, there wouldn't be a spot for the auction. He purposely didn't mention it, and even gathered us to gather money at that time. He wanted us to not get a spot and really sell the ideal staff. He wanted to make it real and lure Jian Nanyu into his trap. Lan Yi wasn't stupid. He even helped Han family young master to add some details. Everyone's expression changed. This method of Han family young master was obviously too unkind and lacking in loyalty. Even Tsubasa Sakuratsuka and the others, although they treated Gu Fei and the others as their own people, felt that Han family young master's method was too much. Curses rose from all directions, and it seemed like they were surrounding them. Han family young master turned his head and glanced at everyone. He continued to say disapprovingly, "The staff hasn't even been sold yet and you're already like this. If it really gets sold, what are you going to do?" He was still mocking them at a time like this. No one could stand it. The crowd strode forward as if they were going to harvest lives. Tsubasa Sakuratsuka and the others didn't follow them, but they didn't show any intention of stopping them either. They stopped where they were with a difficult expression on their faces. Can't you just say a few words less? Han family young master added fuel to the fire, causing Brother Yu to cry. Especially when Han family young master had the aura of a big boss, and he himself was just a cannon fodder before he died. How could he endure this? Everyone, don't panic. Suddenly, someone squeezed out of the crowd. Brother Yu saw that he was really a fucking savior. The moment this person walked out, everyone couldn't help but take 3 steps back. Brother Qianli, we know that you're very powerful, but none of us brothers are afraid of death. If you want to stand up for us, then kill us all. Lonnie said calmly. In front of a great enemy, this guy was actually surprisingly calm. Not at all, not at all. I'm here to help you. As Gu Fei spoke, he walked towards the young master of the Han family, and stood in front of him. It was as if he was talking to the young master of the Han family, but it was also as if he was saying to everyone present, "You have always been dishonest." You. Han family young master only said one word, and Gu Fei's fist had already flown out. No matter how smart Han family young master was, or how fast his reflexes were, when it came to punching and kicking, the difference between him and Gu Fei was like heaven and earth. This punch landed right on his cheek, and it was a solid hit. On the other hand, Gu Fei's strength wasn't enough for most people. However, the Han family's young master was a priest with the golden ratio. His body was also extremely weak. Gu Fei also had some equipment that increased strength, which was also the same as the Han family's. In addition, he also had some techniques. When this fist landed, the Han family's young master's face caved in. Then his head tilted, his neck twisted, his body tilted, and his legs tilted. In a single breath, the Han family's young master fell to the ground, causing dust to fly everywhere. The surroundings were silent. Although it was only a single punch, Gu Fei's punches were very difficult for normal players to replicate. They could only turn their opponent into a ball of white light, but at this moment, Gu Fei's punch made everyone feel that it was even more satisfying than chopping Han family young master to death. "I've wanted to beat you up for a long time," Gu Fei said as he looked at Han family young master. Han family young master had already climbed up and touched the corner of his mouth. He still had a look of disapproval on his face. "You motherfucker." Chapter 573. He was beaten to such a sorry state, but his attitude was still so arrogant. Everyone had their eyes open today. They originally thought that the punch was very satisfying, but now they felt that it wasn't satisfying enough. They all waved their fists towards the sky and cheered for Gu Fei. "Beat him to death! Beat him to death!" The crowd shouted rhythmically. Gu Fei shook his head helplessly and said, "It would be great if we could really beat him to death. It's a pity that even if we kill him, he will revive. He's still so annoying when we see him again. This part of online games isn't good." Everyone's heart palpitated. They thought to themselves that an expert was indeed an expert. He couldn't even vent his anger by piking someone's level. He really wanted to kill him. It was as cruel as the rumors. Boundless Meng was also dissatisfied with the Han family young master's plan to sell her staff. However, she and Gu Fei weren't as distant as Lan Yi and the others. During the Traversing the Four Seas mission, they had seen each other frequently and had worked together many times. It wouldn't be wrong to call them friends. Boundless Meng was always as cold as winter to her enemies. However, the person in front of her wasn't an enemy. Even if he wasn't kind, his starting point was the same as everyone else. It was to get rid of Jian Nanyu. Thinking about this, Boundless Meng didn't want to dwell on these small matters anymore. She tried to persuade everyone. Forget it, forget it. The staff is still here. Nothing happened. There's no need to kill each other over this. In short, Boundless Meng still saw the Han family young master as one of their own. Han family young master nodded and praised Boundless Meng. "You're much more magnanimous than them." Everyone was angry. Boundless Meng glared at him. "Next time you want to do something like this, at least tell us first, right?" I have no confidence in your acting skills. Han family young master said indifferently. Is that so? I think you just like to see everyone fly into a rage because of you, right? Gu Fei gave him a sidelong glance. As long as the plan works, I don't care about anything else. Han family young master said. Forget it, forget it. Let's leave it at that. Mang Mang suspected that if his brothers continued to listen to the Han family young master's preaching, they would most likely become irritable again. At that time, he might not be able to persuade them even if he wasn't the person involved. Thus, he wanted to quickly disperse everyone. Don't. Gu Fei suddenly interrupted. It's not over yet. What? Everyone stared blankly for a moment, and then joy appeared on their faces. Could it be that Brother Expert also felt that one punch was too little, and was prepared to do another 3 or 2 punches? Cough. It's like this. You see, the original plan has failed, so we can only use the original method. Gu Fei said. What kind of crude method? Boundless Mang Mang asked. Leave the staff to me. Gu Fei beamed with joy. Damn, you're not purposely causing trouble, are you? The young master of the Han family was now seriously suspecting that Gu Fei had purposely messed up the situation and ruined the plot he had designed, causing the current situation to fail. Then he would jump out and continue with his old and broken plan. Right now, Jian Nanyu and the others might still be in the auction house. Thus, we can just hand the staff to me right under their eyes. How great would that be? Gu Fei said. Great my ass. What's the use of this kind of trick? Now that I've given it to you, you'll return it to Boundless Mang Mang the next moment. How could they not think of this? Han family young master said. It's precisely so that they won't think of it, so I won't return it for now. Gu Fei said. But their line of sight will still continue to be entangled with Boundless Mang Mang. What's the use of you holding the staff? Why don't you just directly put it in the warehouse? Han family young master said. After killing Boundless Mang Mang 5, 6, 7, 8 times, they'll eventually believe that the staff isn't on her. At that time, they'll come find me. Gu Fei said. Hey. Boundless Mang 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 was very dissatisfied. Why was he suddenly going to be killed 5, 6, 7, 8 times? Did you see that? Han family young master spread out his hands towards Boundless Mang Mang. I only wanted to sacrifice your staff. Moreover, that's not really a sacrifice. A large amount of gold coins will go back into your pocket. This guy wants to directly sacrifice your people. He's so inhumane. Why didn't anyone stand up and beat him to death? If you sell it again, it won't be worth as much as it is now. Because no one has used it before, the value of this rare equipment is rather vague. When it first appeared, it would cause a mad scramble for it. Now that it has appeared again so soon, the price will definitely drop drastically. Those who are overly suspicious will even suspect that there's something wrong with it. Brother Yu appeared out of nowhere, and said with great experience. I'm just saying this out of anger. The Boundless Mang Mang was about to go crazy. What kind of people were in this circle? One was going to sacrifice his magic staff, the other was going to sacrifice his level 5, 6, 7, and 8. And the last one was going to seriously come up with a plan out of anger. You guys aren't teaming up to play with me, are you? Boundless Mang Mang really had this kind of suspicion. The 3 of them glanced at each other and shrugged. That's it. Jiannan, you can look for whoever he wants. Anyway, the magic staff isn't in my hands right now. If it's stored in the auction house for a week, that brat will have to wait 10 days for the magic staff. It'll be at least half a month before I get the magic staff back. Let Jiannan waste his energy. Disperse, disperse. Boundless Mang roared in annoyance. Too fucking ruthless. Everyone was shocked. The original plan was to store the magic staff in the auction house for a week, and have Jian Nanyu wait for it. Everyone already felt that it was very inhumane. They didn't expect that Boundless Mang Mang would be even more vicious. He directly found someone who would temporarily leave the game after getting the magic staff. This way, Jian Nanyu would have to wait for the magic staff to come back online after waiting for half a month. The 7 of them might as well be like the Calabash brothers and transform into a mountain, protecting their ideal magic staff for the rest of their lives. The victim had flipped out, and the others shrunk their necks, not daring to make a sound. Seeing the vast expanse of grass, they turned and left. Lan Yi and Sakurazuka Tsukuzi hurriedly chased after them. Don't follow me. I want to see what Jiannen you can do. Boundless Meng was really depressed. They had just met a robber. Wasn't it just a game where you kill me, I kill you? It was a simple matter, but now it was getting more and more complicated. A bunch of people gathered together carefully. Boundless Meng couldn't bear it any longer. That's right. Why are there so many of you gathered here? Let's disperse. Slim Waist Dance also jumped out and roared. Then she hugged Meng Meng and said, let's go play. Meng Meng nodded, and the two girls walked away hand in hand. Slender Dance took advantage of the fact that no one was paying attention to her, and stuck her hand out from her shoulder to make a victory sign to Gu Fei. Gu Fei shook his head and sighed. He wanted to act cool in the vast wilderness, but in the end, he was still used as bait. Lan Yi and Tsubasa Sakuratsuka didn't dare to chase after him, but they were worried if they didn't. They looked like they were going to die, so the more they looked at each other, the more they looked at each other. The scene was chaotic. 100 Era's Jinglin still hadn't figured out the ins and outs of the matter. He scratched his head and asked Gu Fei for advice. What's going on? Aren't we going to PK Jiannenyu? Why are they selling staffs? Why do they have to buy their own staffs after selling them? Why are they angry if they can't buy them back? They want to use this method to lure Jiannenyu out, Gu Fei said. Then where is Jiannenyu? 100 Era's Jinglin's careless action of looking around seemed to be mocking this failed plan. Perhaps it's coming out soon, the young master of the Han family suddenly said. What's your plan now? When Brother Yu asked this question, he couldn't help but feel a chill. Look at how happy everyone is right now. Han family young master looked at Lan Yi and Tsubasa Sakuratsuka, who seemed to be about to start fighting. Gu Fei jumped out at the right time and yelled for the two groups to stop fighting. If you have the time, think of a way to protect the vast wilderness. It's not like you guys haven't seen Jiannanyu's methods. Gu Fei said. What do you have in mind, Brother Zui? Sakurazuka Tsutomo quickly came over to curry favor with Gu Fei, showing that he was the one who was closer to Gu Fei. I think he and his group of brothers want to deal with Jiannanyu. Protect the vast wilderness. Have you guys thought about this? Lonnie said. You're right, so I'll leave the protection to you guys. Don't relax. Gu Fei said. Pfft. Lonnie snorted and left with his brothers. This Lan Yi is very concerned about Mang Mang. The two of them are old friends. Have they been secretly in love for a long time? Yu Zai has a strong opponent. I told you, with Yu Zai's wretched appearance, how could he have a chance with such a good girl? The brothers of eternal life in the flower bush were all talking at once, but what they were discussing was completely unrelated to the matter at hand. However, it was clear that Tsubasa Sakuratsuka was more concerned about this matter. The more he listened, the more shocked he became. He hurriedly bid farewell to Gu Fei and quickly left. Although Lan Yi and his group were walking in the opposite direction, they had the same destination. It was only a matter of time before they met. The large group had already dispersed, leaving only Gu Fei, Han family young master, Brother Yu, and Bai Shi Jingluan. Just what is the plan? Brother Yu increasingly felt that Gu Fei and Han family young master were doing things step by step. They purposely made everyone quarrel and part on bad terms. Han family young master said. Brother Yu was puzzled. It's just to let Jiannanyu see that our plan is a complete failure. Han family young master said. What do you mean? But his concept of failure is different from ours. Our failure is a good thing for him. Han family young master said. You mean to let Jiannanyu think that we made a mistake and really sold the staff? Brother Yu said. Han family young master nodded. Since we failed to make it real, we can only pass off the fake as the real thing. Then Qianli's punch was also part of your plan? Brother Yu asked. Han family young master smiled bitterly. He was hinting to Gu Fei that he could Photoshop a few people to make the dispute look intense, but he didn't expect Gu Fei to punch him. I was serious. Gu Fei actually explained to him. I really wanted to beat you up for a long time, Gu Fei said. The Han clan's young master nodded. I meant what I said. Which one? Gu Fei was puzzled. He didn't remember Han Family Young Master saying any important lines. Fuck you. Han Family Young Master repeated. Chapter 574. Brother Yu lowered his head and pondered for a while, but he was still confused. He looked at the Han Family Young Master and said, "Can you explain in detail, clearly, and without hiding anything? Isn't it clear enough?" The Han Family Young Master was the type who would die if he didn't look down on others, not to mention that Brother Yu had delivered himself to his doorstep. Brother Yu, on the other hand, was the type who would die if he didn't know the truth. For the sake of the truth, he had no choice but to accept it. Listen, this was originally a trap, as you all know. It wasn't complicated, but it would definitely arouse the suspicion of Jian Nanyu and the others. If they suspected it was a trap, what should they do? Avoid it? In my opinion, beating them at their own game and finding an opportunity to achieve their goal is the smart way to do so. I think this is also what Jian Nanyu and the others would do. However, in the process of unraveling the trap, they would accidentally discover that it was not a trap. Perhaps it was once a trap, but in the end, due to the fact that they had sold the magic staff in the boundless wilderness, there was a variable that they could take advantage of. When he came to this realization very well, he really fell into my trap. Therefore, it's not a big deal that Qian Li's stupid actions aroused the suspicion of Jian Nanyu and the others. The first part of this trap doesn't need to be suspected at all. It's a pity that his idiocy still allowed Boundless Mang to buy back the staff. This way, the second part can't continue. Jian Nanyu knows everything and can beat him at his own game, but we can't do anything about it. Which side are you fucking on? The Han family's young master looked down on Gu Fei as he spoke. However, Gu Fei wasn't listening to him at all. He was waving his hands and gesturing something with Bai Shijing. The Han family young master glanced at them, and his expression became more and more unsightly. Gu Fei seemed to be communicating with Bai Shijing about the punch he just threw at him. Bai Shijing had an eager expression on his face. Let them suspect first, then dispel their suspicions. So that's how it is. Brother, you listened attentively. And it's not like you're helpless right now. Now you're pretending to be in a dispute to deceive them into believing that the staff has really been sold, right? That's right, but compared to selling the staff, this kind of lie is only a last resort. There are too many variables in the situation. Han family young master said. What about Sword Demon and the others? Brother, you didn't notice them at first, but now he realized that he hadn't seen them since leaving the auction house. I'll have them stay at the auction house and pay attention to Jian Nanyu's actions. Han family young master said. Just the three of them? Will there be any trouble? Brother, you had participated in the fight against Jian Nanyu's team. His combat skills were ordinary, but he had good foresight. If their team didn't have an abnormally strong person like Gu Fei, they would only have a 50-50 chance of winning against Jian Nanyu's team. If it was just Sword Demon and the other two, they would definitely be at a disadvantage. Yutian has long-range eagle vision and Sword Demon is stealthy. What's there to worry about? Han family young master said. What about Wuxiang? The auction house is an absolute safe zone. Oh, then do they have any news? Brother, you asked. Why don't you ask them directly in the mercenary channel? Han family young master was clearly annoyed after saying so much. Brother Yu's thirst for knowledge was terrifying. Han family young master immediately saw him send a message in the channel. In the auction house, Flaming Jacket and Glue stayed behind after everyone else had left. After waiting for a while, they saw Unscathed in Battle appear. Their hearts raced. Of course, they weren't afraid of Unscathed in Battle, but they were afraid of the terrifying figure in Unscathed in Battle's team. Calm down, this is an absolute safe zone. The two said to themselves. Unscathed in Battle clearly understood this, so he casually walked in their direction without putting up any defenses. The two looked at each other, then looked to their side. Next to them was the NPC who would pick up the goods. Unscathed in Battle was walking in their direction. Could he be here to pick up the goods? I'm busy. In the end, Unscathed in Battle unexpectedly walked in front of the two and spoke to them in a casual tone. Oh. The two didn't know how to reply. They were immediately at a disadvantage. Don't wait anymore. The buyer of the staff won't appear today, Unscathed in Battle said. Why? Flaming Jacket blurted out. Because he was impulsive. He was obviously not the shrewd type. Ha ha ha, I'm actually bluffing. Maybe he will appear. You guys better wait patiently. Unscathed in Battle said. The two gritted their teeth. They hated the fact that they were in a safe zone. Where's your boss? Unscathed in Battle looked around. Where's your boss? The two asked back. My boss is me. Don't you know? Unscathed in Battle said shamelessly. We're all warriors and we're both bosses. Help me ask him out for a duel. Unscathed in Battle said shamelessly. I don't have time for that, Flaming Jacket said. That's right. Unscathed in Battle nodded. You guys better wait here for the time being. Ha ha ha. Unscathed in Battle said. He swung his great sword and put it on his shoulder. He twisted his butt and went to look at the auction panel. He ignored the two. Flaming Jacket and Glue looked like they were suffering from internal injuries. Glue was still calm. He quickly told Jiannan about Unscathed in Battle's sudden appearance and irritating conversation. Meanwhile, Jiannan had just received news from Blackwater, who tailed them. The group of people in the middle of the street suddenly quarreled and split up. Are you sure? Jiannan paid attention to the group of people, because he wanted to confirm his theory through their actions. Splitting up in the middle of the street was not part of his plan. Of course. I was too far away and couldn't hear what they were talking about. But it was definitely a quarrel and they started fighting. Blackwater said confidently. Tell me the details. At first, it seemed that the priest who was with Qianli Drunk had a quarrel with the people in the middle of the street. But Qianli Drunk sided with the people in the middle of the street and knocked the guy down with one punch. They quarreled for a while, and then Mang Mang left angrily. Slim Waist Dance left with her. The rest of them quarreled for a while, and then they split into two groups and went their own ways. Only 1,000 Miles Drunk and the others were left. They seemed to be arguing about something, Blackwater reported. What's going on? Jiannan was a little confused. There's another bad news, Blackwater said. What? There's a fighter with Drunk Qianli Drunk and the others. I think he's the 100 years of experience, Blackwater said. Damn it. Jiannan couldn't help cursing. It was hard enough to deal with Qianli Drunk, and now there was the 100 years of experience. What should we do now? Blackwater asked. Who are you targeting now? Jiannan asked. Drunk Qianli Drunk. Continue. Be careful. Understood. After receiving the information from both sides, Jiannan began to think about the situation with his eyebrows knitted. From the information obtained from Yi Xiaowu, he knew that this was indeed a trap set by Drunk Qianli Drunk to lure Jiannan and the others out. However, he didn't find any signs of an ambush when he was wandering around the auction house. Dao Xiangmu and the others who were sent out did not find any ambush at the resurrection points either. This didn't make sense. However, the buyer of the staff, Missing Man Chi, gave them an explanation. Perhaps the other party was preparing to take the staff to lure them after everything was set up. However, Jin Nanyu couldn't understand why 1,000 Miles Drunk had suddenly put on such an eye-catching show during the auction, as well as why Zhan Wushang had mocked the flaming cloak and glue. They even quarreled. Was it because of Qianli Drunk's exposed actions? Then why did he expose himself? Jiannan and the others didn't back down just because they suspected it was a trap. Just like what the Han family young master said, it was a good thing to be able to detect a trap. They had a lot of options to choose from. Jiannan made many arrangements. He stared at the auction house, paid attention to the actions of Qianli Drunk and the others, and paid attention to the locations where they needed to set up ambushes. All of this was to further understand the trap and find opportunities to continue his work. He thought he had a clear understanding of the other party's arrangements. However, Qianli Drunk's strange actions were a big mystery. Following the appearance of Unscathed in Battle, Jiannan couldn't think of a reasonable explanation. Unscathed in Battle seems to be wasting time with us. At that moment, Glue suddenly sent a message. Why? This guy isn't leaving. He's purposely wandering around under our noses. I don't know what he's up to. Glue was feeling a little guilty. Is he watching you? Jiannan asked. Probably. But he's so arrogant. It's annoying. Glue said. Wait. Jiannanyu's expression suddenly changed. Is he targeting you guys or the NPC who is shipping the goods over there? What do you mean? What I mean is that he's watching you guys is the same as watching the NPC. Jiannan said. Why is he watching the NPC? Glue didn't understand. Of course it's to find out who the staff was sold to, Jiannan said. Isn't the staff a show that they bought themselves? Glue didn't understand. It was supposed to be a show, but what if they messed it up? Jiannan said. What did you find out? Glue hurriedly asked. First of all, Qianli Drunk appeared at such a sensitive time. There must be a reason why he appeared. His actions couldn't have been meaningless. What kind of impact did he have on the fake sale incident? A lot of people surrounded him. Glue said. That's right. Think about it again. You told me about it as a joke. This has never happened in the auction house. Jiannan said. Glue immediately understood. A lot of people couldn't get to the auction stage. You're saying that they also encountered this problem. That's why Qianli Drunk jumped out to distract a lot of people, so that they could get to the auction stage? Yes. Judging from the fact that the fake sale ended before the auction ended, their people should have successfully seized the stage. However, seizing the stage doesn't mean that they succeeded in snatching it, Jiannanyu said. Their people got into an argument after leaving the auction house. Isn't it most likely because the fake sale of the staff became real? Jiannan continued. Yes. This unscathed in battle's appearance isn't meaningless. For Boundless Mang Mang, selling her staff for money wasn't something that she could accept, but it had nothing to do with us. That was why it was unlikely that her group would waste any more time and effort to tangle with us. She was still angry that her staff had been sold, and she knew that with us around, we would make the owner's staff drop again. Perhaps she would even feel relieved. Only Qianli Drunk and his people like to go against us. That's why Unscathed in Battle appeared and said those nonsensical things to you, Jiannan said. Then what's the point of his nonsense? Glue didn't understand. Qianli Drunk's exposure will make us suspicious. They know this too. With the fact that the fake sale of the staff has become real, their trap has already failed. However, they are also very vague about how much we know about the situation. That's why Zhang Wuxiang says that the buyer will come and then says that he won't. He's actually testing our reaction to see how much we know, Jiannanyu said. Is that so? Glue didn't dare imagine that idiot would be so shrewd. He actually used words to test their intentions. Wasn't that just a few shameless taunts? Would the number one warrior in the game be that simple? Jiannan said solemnly. He would never underestimate his opponent. Glue wiped his sweat. He was just thinking about whether his and Flaming Cloak's reactions had sent back some sort of message to his opponent. Then why hasn't he left? Glue asked. I said it before. Because the fake sale of the staff became real, they need to understand where the staff is sold, Jiannan said. They want the staff back too? Glue was shocked. That's hard to say, but at the very least, wherever the staff appears will be there. This is the same as their original intention. They just want to lure us out, Jiannan said. How tiring. Why are they so fixated on us? It's not like they've dropped any equipment, Glue said. They have. They didn't succeed. Jiannan reminded him. As expected of Jiannan, he was really confident. Glue thought. He felt that Qianli probably didn't even know that they wanted to drop his equipment. They were so insignificant that they didn't even have time to reveal their intentions before they were chased all over the place. Then what should we do now? Glue asked. We need to control the buyer of the staff. So even though their people will be there, we need to keep an eye on them. But we need to think about it carefully. If we act rashly, we'll fall into their trap, Jiannan said. Those guys, don't tell me they want to drop the staff along with us, Glue said. We can't rule out this possibility. The staff was unexpectedly sold, and Boundless Mang seems to be very angry. Looking at the situation, this idea was most likely thought up by them. Using this method to get the staff back to Boundless Mang isn't impossible, Jiannan said. That's really troublesome. With them keeping an eye on the target, how are we going to act? Glue was worried. Don't worry, there will be a chance. Chapter 575. In the Child Elite Group's mercenary channel, Han Family Young Master was also receiving messages from the 3 people who were scattered outside. I saw Jian Nanyu, but I lost him in a flash. He was very careful and professional, Yutian Shenming said. Yes, I understand. Han Family Young Master said. What do you mean? Yutian Shenming was furious. He really disappeared after turning around a street. Did you recognize which street it was? Han Family Young Master asked. In the end, it was Sword Demon who replied. It's not because Yutian has a bad sense of direction. Jian Nanyu is indeed difficult to deal with. I've met him before, but I lost him after a while. He was very careful and often took some detours. He should have many sets of equipment on him. This was a huge difference between the parallel world and reality. In reality, changing clothes on the street was a very eye-catching thing. It was very common in the game. Many people had 2 or 3 sets of equipment on hand. Not everyone had good-looking and exquisite equipment. Most players didn't care about their appearance in battle, but they would try their best to dress well when they were on the road or drinking. This was especially true for Imperial Divine Ming and Zhan Wuxiang, who loved to pick up girls. Once upon a time, Yutian Shenming actually had a set of clothes with good attributes. However, because the color didn't match, it made him look like a green onion. In the end, he sold it with tears in his eyes. If male players were like this, there was no need to mention female players. The warehouse was a wardrobe. It didn't matter if the equipment was useful or not, as long as it looked good, it would be kept. In such a realistic game environment, it was too hard for the girls to wear the same clothes for 2 weeks in a row. Jian Nanyu was like a girl who loved to look good. He didn't use the warehouse as a wardrobe. He carried a few sets of clothes with him, from head to toe. It was all because of the dangerous profession of robbing. The team of 7 split up. He was responsible for paying attention to the movements around the auction house, which was undoubtedly the most dangerous place. Jian Nanyu had made thorough preparations. He had prepared 7 sets of equipment that could be changed at any time, covering the 7 major classes. Even though he wasn't sure if he was being watched, he changed his clothes every now and then. Jian Nanyu had perfected the saying, "It is better to be safe than sorry." Yutian Shenming's evaluation wasn't wrong. Yutian Shenming was careful and professional. While he was on guard, amateurs like Sword Demon and Yutian Shenming revealed the gap between them and pro players. Wuxiang, what about your side? Han Family Young Master asked. Unscathed in battle. Those 2 grandsons are still here. Unscathed in battle had been interacting with Lan Yi's people a lot lately. Hearing them call each other grandson, he was also infatuated with these 2 words. How did they react to you? Han Family Young Master asked. They spat at me. If they have the guts, then don't come out. If they do, I'll kill them. Unscathed in battle pretended to be a god. Did you guys confirm whether or not there were any of them outside? Han Family Young Master asked. Yes, I did. I didn't see any of them. Sword Demon replied. But Jian Nanyu was sneaking around here. Yutian Shenming added. Yes, the one I met was the same, the Sword Ghost said. After all, they had the upper hand in terms of strength. They weren't like Jian Nanyu and the others who had to hide and look around openly. Oh, Han Family Young Master was deep in thought. Brother, you naturally wouldn't let him go. He immediately asked, how is it? This group of fellows seems to be a cut above others in terms of escaping and tracking. If my guess is correct, there might even be people watching us from the shadows. The Han family's young master said. Brother Yu immediately looked back. Gu Fei and Bai Shijingluan had been exchanging their martial arts experiences along the way. They didn't care about what was happening in front of them. When they heard Han family young master suddenly say that there were people watching them, the 2 of them looked back at the same time. Even if there were people watching us, they wouldn't be too close. They wouldn't be able to hear us. Gu Fei said. How many meters can you sense? Bai Shijingluan asked. Around 10 meters. Gufei said. So strong. I can only sense about 5 to 7 meters. Bai Shijingluan said enviously. This varies from person to person. You see. The two of them went back to discussing their professional knowledge. Han family young master and brother you couldn't understand at all. Both parties were minding their own business. The auction hall was the only place where they intersected with each other. Unscathed in battle didn't wander around blindly. He stood at the entrance of the auction hall with his great sword. Half of him was outside the door, and the other half was inside the door. He looked at the two with an arrogant expression. His intention to threaten them was obvious. However, the two of them only glanced at him from time to time. They paid more attention to the players who went to pick up their goods from the NPC. Zhan Wuxiang was asking for a snub. Compared to when he had first arrived, the two of them were clearly much calmer now. There was even a hint of mockery in their eyes as they looked at Zhan Wuxiang. How long do I have to stay here? What's the point of doing this? Unscathed in battle couldn't take it anymore. He was called to the auction house by Han family young master. When he asked what he needed to do, Han family young master told him to do whatever he wanted. Thus, he displayed his shamelessness. He came here to show off, but now he was bored. He was being looked down upon, but he couldn't do anything. There was no skill in arguing. Unscathed in battle didn't want to do this anymore. He protested to Han family young master. Can't you be a little more patient? Look at how professional they are. Han family young master said. There's two of them. Find me a beauty to accompany me. I'll let you know what it means to be professional. Unscathed in battle replied. Aren't there any girls in the auction house? Do whatever you want. Han family young master said. These words reminded Zhan Wuxiang of something. From then on, his gaze no longer lingered on those two fellows. He changed into a set of equipment that he felt was extremely elegant, and he started to walk around the auction house. When he saw a prey that was pleasing to the eye, he would go up and strike up a conversation without any care. Very quickly, he was rolled his eyes 3 times, but he still enjoyed it. It was as if he had suddenly found the meaning of life. Flame Jacket and Glue didn't seem to care about Unscathed in battle, but they were actually paying attention to him. After a while of being bored, he suddenly turned into a little bee that was picking flowers. He was so busy that he didn't even have the time to pay attention to the two of them. The two of them felt that the situation was very serious, so they immediately reported it to South Sword. Humph, they're still pretending, South Sword said. They're just pretending to be relaxed so that we can't figure out their trump card. Don't worry, I've already sorted out my thoughts. This was originally a trap to lure us out. However, when we were trying to take back the staff, we neglected the fact that there were too many people at the auction, and there were too few auction tables. Although Qianli tried to cause chaos when he was drunk, it was obvious that he failed at the last moment. So they got into an argument. Maybe it was because this idea came from Qianli and his gang. Maybe it was because they wanted to apologize or something, so they tried to take back the staff. However, this group of people doesn't want us to have an easy time either. They want to take advantage of our mistake and beat us at our own game. Zhan Wuxiang was obviously monitoring the staff's whereabouts, but he purposely said all sorts of nonsense. In fact, we don't need to pay attention to him. As long as he's still at the auction house, my deduction won't be wrong. Otherwise, why would he appear here at this time? Then what should we do? The two of them asked. As I said before, your mission today is to find out who has the staff. The more you know, the better. We won't do anything today. Won't they be the first to get it? First to get it? Let them go. Do you think it'll drop just because you want it to? We have to use all kinds of tricks to succeed in every mission. They only wanted to chase and kill the target. These fellows had thought this job was too simple. Let them go first, then we'll show them what it means to be a professional, South Sword said. The two of them calmed down and continued to pay attention to what they needed to pay attention to. They didn't pay much attention to Unscathed in battle anymore. At this time, Unscathed in battle was wholeheartedly harassing the girls in the auction house. He didn't pay attention to the two of them anymore. Anyway, Han family young master told him to just stay in the auction house and pay attention. He didn't have any strict orders to carry out at all. In the blink of an eye, 2 hours had passed. Glue and Flaming Cloak were professionals. They could bear the loneliness and treated this as their job. At this time, the two of them looked at Zhang Wuxiang again. This guy actually harassed the girl like a madman for 2 whole hours. What kind of shameless spirit did he have? However, the two of them had actually overestimated Zhang Wuxiang. The lady had been flirting with him for 2 hours, but none of them had succeeded. Zhang Wuxiang was also very discouraged at this moment. He was currently sending a message to young Master Han to ask if this matter was over. Are those two guys still there? Yes. Good. Looks like they've finally taken the bait. Han family young master let out a long sigh. What bait? Our plan should have been seen through by them. If that was the case, they wouldn't have wasted any more time in the auction house. They didn't care who came to collect the goods or when. They would return it to Mang Mang in the end. So it's right to find Mang Mang 7 days later. But now they're willing to waste more than 2 hours there. Looks like they've finally been tricked by us. They think the staff is no longer in our hands. That's why they're persistently waiting for a buyer. Han family young master said. Is that so? Unscathed in battle didn't understand what Han family young master was saying. Wu Shang contributed a lot this time. Give him 50 points, Sword Demon. Han family young master said. Okay. Sword Demon replied. Haha, of course. You guys didn't see it. When I stood in the auction house, those 2 grandsons were scared. Like grandsons. Unscathed in battle immediately started bragging. Then what's next? Brother, you asked. Next, get someone to go get the staff. Since they've already taken the bait, then the situation will be easier to control. Han family young master said. That's so beneficial. If only we had done this earlier. Brother, you sighed. Compared to actually selling the staff, there are too many variables. We're just lucky that we didn't run into them. Han family young master was still stubborn. Boundless Mang, who was touring White Stone City with Slender Waist Dance, was also shocked when she received the news. What? We're going to get the staff now? That's right. Jian Nanyu and the others have already fallen into my trap. If we get the staff now, we'll be able to trigger their actions. Han family young master told her. What trap? Boundless Mang was a bit confused. The young master of the Han family gave a rough explanation. Boundless Mang was inwardly shocked. As expected of the team that had once toppled their Dust Guild. In a situation where their plan was almost ruined, they seized the opportunity to set up another trap. Boundless Mang felt that the destruction of their guild was not unjust. But the resurrection point isn't set up yet. Boundless Mang didn't lose her ruthless temperament. Killing people once wasn't enough. Don't set it up in advance. I suspect this guy already guessed this. Paying attention to the movements around the resurrection point is part of his plan. Han family young master said. Then what do we do? Just kill them once? Boundless Mang was unwilling. Although Jian Nanyu didn't kill her staff and didn't cause any damage to her, she had already determined him as an enemy. What I mean is, don't go and arrange the arrangements in advance. This might be seen by their eyes. But when we start to make our move, we don't need to care if they know or not. We'll make the arrangements then. There are 7 of them. 2 priests and no grandmaster of combat. You can arrange the resurrection point according to the manpower. Han family young master said. Okay, I understand. Boundless Mang felt that Han family young master's arrangements were very thorough. But as soon as she told Lan Yi, she immediately became very unhappy. You still want to believe that kid? The plan isn't bad. When Boundless Mang said this, Lan Yi was also very surprised. He even made a bold guess. Could it be that the fellow said those words on purpose at that time, to provoke a dispute and put on a show for Jian Nanyu and the others? Boundless Mang fell into silence. This was indeed the intention of Han family young master when he said those words. But he didn't deny that he was really trying to sell Boundless Mang's staff. Although Boundless Mang didn't mind it as much as Lan Yi and the others, he definitely didn't think that Han family young master was a noble person. But Lan Yi and the others were willing to understand it that way. Boundless Mang felt that it wasn't a bad thing. At least their cooperation would be smoother. He immediately replied, "Probably." "Damn, then what are we still talking about? Hurry up and move." Lonnie immediately went to call his brothers. Boundless Mang then told Sakurazuka Tsukuzi that they needed to deal with 6 resurrection points, and the more the merrier. Tsubasa Sakuratsuka and the others had a super idol like Gu Fei there. Their worries were negligible. Once they heard that they were busy, they didn't waste even a minute. Finally, they personally informed the priest who bought the staff and told him to go and collect the staff now. Now, isn't it a week from now? The kid heard Lonnie calling everyone to gather and muttered to himself, "There's a change of plans. It's more advantageous to get the staff now. Hurry up and go." Boundless Mang said, "I'm outside the city, it's quite far." "No problem, I'll wait for you. It's getting late, I have to go down now. Play a little longer. Without you, we can't do anything with this plan." "Sister Boundless Mang. Actually, I didn't get the staff." Chapter 576. What? What did you say? Boundless Mang felt dizzy when he saw the message, and he even stuttered when replying. "I didn't buy the staff." Everything was difficult at the beginning. After the other party started, he sent the message quickly and didn't try to hide anymore. "What's going on?" Boundless Mang asked. "I was optimistic about the price, but after I bid, the system said that the item didn't exist. I think I was a bit late." The priest who rushed to buy said, "Why didn't you say so earlier?" "I think there's still a week's time." The person replied, to be able to confidently entrust this task to him. The vast Mang Mang was also very familiar with this person. As soon as he heard these words, he understood what he was planning. It was like the leader had entrusted you with a task, but you didn't complete it. Fortunately, the leader would only check on your work in a week, so you might as well say that you had completed the task and think of a way to solve it in a week. This kind of thing happened everywhere in life. Boundless Mang didn't think that he would get involved in a game. "Why do you have to do this?" Boundless Mang didn't know what to say. The other party had this kind of thought because he valued the staff very much. "Where are you now?" Boundless Mang asked. "Auction house." Boundless Mang immediately understood. This guy also wanted to wait for a buyer, and then think of a way to buy it at a high price. And this transaction was naturally a very special situation. The value of the staff itself was already completely negligible. Spending money was to bear this responsibility. Boundless Mang reckoned that he would directly bring the other party to the exchange and fiercely become a RMB warrior. No need to trouble yourself. Just sell it. At this time, Boundless Mang really couldn't say any words of blame. After saying this, he turned around and sent a message to Han Family Young Master. "As you wish." "Is it arranged?" Han Family Young Master asked. "No, the staff was really sold." Boundless Mang said. "What?" Han Family Young Master was startled. "The staff as you wish. It was really sold." Boundless Mang sighed as he sent a message. He didn't know what to say about this matter. "Fuck." Upon receiving the news, the Han Family Young Master blurted out, scaring Brother Yu. "What's wrong?" Brother Yu quickly asked. "Look, the variable is coming." The Han Family Young Master was annoyed. "What happened?" "The staff was really sold. The kid who bought it lied." Han Family Young Master said. "How could this be?" said Brother Yu. "He probably thinks he's smart and wants to buy it back with his own money. That's why he wants to hide it from us," said the Han Family Young Master. Brother Yu scratched his head and thought for a moment before saying, "But this doesn't seem to affect us much. It's equivalent to going back to your original idea of making a fake show into reality." "Then can't we just do it that way?" "It's not that simple," Han Family Young Master said. "Let me make an example. There are 2 plans, A and B. Among them, A is a smokescreen for the enemy to see, to make them think that we are A, but in fact, we are carrying out B. This is the key to the whole plan. But now that A has been successfully released as a smokescreen, we can't carry out B. You mean we should treat this smokescreen A as the real plan?" Can't we? Come on, boss. This plan has already been clearly conveyed to Jian Nanyu and the others. He must have thought of a targeted strategy. If we go back and carry out a now, it's fucking walking into a trap. Han family young master said. Now that you mention it, it does seem to be the case. Brother, you nodded. Although the Han family young master's example of AB didn't relate to the current situation, it made the logic very clear. Moreover, brother, you also guessed that Han family young master's original plan could actually be said to be this kind of real and fake exchange. However, originally, it was the fake sale of the staff, while B was the real sale of the staff. Later, because the real sale failed, Han family young master instantly changed the real sale of the staff into smokescreen A, and the fake sale became the truth. Then what do we do now? Brother, you asked. If the real sale is the truth, then this buyer is really strange. Such a high-quality equipment, isn't he in a hurry to get his hands on it? Han family young master said. You suspect that it's a trap? With Brother Yu's suspicious spirit, he was actually already suspecting that this person said he didn't buy the staff because he wanted to embezzle it. Since this guy lied once, of course I don't mind suspecting him a bit more. Han family young master said. However, to pass this kind of thing to him, he should be a very trustworthy person. Brother Yu said. It's not like she doesn't have a history of misjudging people. Han family young master said. Brother Yu of course knew that Han family young master was referring to Silvermoon. Such a big piece of trash. The power of misjudging people in the vast expanse was really quite big. Silvermoon. Han family young master suddenly said this name and frowned. What did you think of? Brother Yu hurriedly said. There are a lot of ideas. Han family young master said. Let's hear it. Brother Yu said. Version 1. This guy colluded with Jian Nanyu and the others. In reality, the whole thing went according to their expectations. With this kind of method, the vast expanse of magic staffs dropped. If that's really the case, then I have to look at them in a new light. They'll be a group of robbers with a future. However, it's a pity that Jian Nanyu and his 2 lackeys are still eagerly waiting at the auction house. I reckon they're still stuck at the slash and burn level of crime. They won't be able to think of such an intelligent method to drop equipment. It's such a waste of your talent that you don't become a robber. Brother Yu said from the bottom of his heart. Version 2 Silvermoon. Since they're both from the former Dust Guild, then this person is obviously old friends with Silvermoon. Therefore, it's possible that Silvermoon is pulling the strings behind the scenes. He first hired Jian Nanyu and the others to drop equipment, and then used this method to easily get the staff after creating this kind of crisis. Even if he can't get the staff, he can still swindle a huge sum of money. What's even more amazing is that Jian Nanyu and the others might fail their mission because of this. It seems like they'll lose money if they fail their mission, right? TSK. With the staff, they'll lose money, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. However, isn't it too unreasonable for such a wonderful method to fall into the hands of that trash, Silvermoon? It's a waste of your talent if you don't go and cheat others. Brother Yu said from the bottom of his heart again. As for version 3, it's a sudden idea to take the staff for himself, so he made up this lie. This is probably the most a normal person can do. Han family young master said. Is it true or not? What's the attitude of the vast expanse? Brother Yu asked. Her? I think she's already chosen to believe it. Han family young master said. That's true. If she didn't believe it enough, then she wouldn't have entrusted it to this person in the first place. Brother Yu said. Could it be that this woman was born to be a tragedy? Is she going to be betrayed by someone she trusts again? Let's go to the auction house. Han family young master said. Auction house? Brother Yu was startled. That guy is at the auction house. Han family young master said. He's there. Could it be that he's looking for an opportunity to steal the staff? Brother Yu said. The vast expanse claims that he's preparing to find a buyer, and buy the staff back at a high price to cover up his previous mistake. Han family young master said. Did Wu Shang find anything over there? Brother Yu suddenly asked. Do they know each other? Han family young master asked. We don't recognize him either. Brother Yu said. The vast expanse will pass. The auction house was quite lively at this time. At this time, many players like Gu Fei, who had a strict schedule, were about to end their day in the game. These players didn't have much time to set up their own stalls in the players' trade area. Therefore, before they went offline, they would consign their harvest to the auction house and see if there was anything else they could buy. For a time, the auction house was bustling with activity. Players bustled about in front of the various auction control tables. Meanwhile, the NPCs selling the auction houses welcomed a rather tiring time of the day. Sometimes, players would form a long queue in front of the NPCs. However, the system would directly deliver the goods to the NPC without any errors. Everything was proceeding very quickly. However, Glue and Flaming Jacket were suffering. The two of them guarded the NPC and stared at the hands that were retracting at lightning speed between the players and the NPC. When they saw the staff, they were excited. However, upon closer inspection, they realized that it wasn't a staff. As this was a simulation game, appearance was very important. Therefore, any item sold in the auction would have a virtual appearance for the players to see. The two of them had already memorized the appearance of their ideal staff, but it was a pity that the staff that they had been looking forward to never appeared. The two of them were working so hard, but Unscathed in battle was the one who was infuriated. At this time, the flow of players in the auction house had increased. This bastard's hunting range had expanded, and he was once again active. He didn't pay much attention to the NPC. He would only occasionally glance at the NPC and Glue, and when he saw the two of them looking at him, a fierce expression would appear on his face. Why isn't he paying attention to the NPC? Flaming Jacket was puzzled. Even if he was putting on an act, it was still a critical moment. However, Unscathed was still not paying attention to the equipment that was being handed over. Danon was right. That bastard is putting on an act to confuse us, Glue said. But at this time, Flaming Jacket said as he continued to stare at the NPC. Look over there. Glue gently touched Flaming Jacket. Flaming Jacket looked in the direction that Glue was pointing at, and saw a cleric standing there in a daze. His eyes were also fixed on the interaction between the NPC and the players. Do you see that? That guy is the one in charge of paying attention to the NPC. Do you think we won't notice a new face? How naive. Glue sneered. As soon as he finished speaking, a few players walked out from the crowd and stood in front of the NPC. The two of them were stunned. They saw the Han family young master and brother Yu in the vast forest. Why did all these people suddenly appear here? Could it be that the situation had changed? The two of them were confused. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.